to another episode of the Quintessential Counter-Strike podcast by the numbers. I am Richard Lewis, the aging, decrepit, bored out of his fucking mind, quarantined host, and I am joined by the ever-youthful, ever-living vampire cacoethes himself, Duncan Thorins Shields. Yeah, no, mate, you actually have got better. I thought you'd be looking like me, all reamed out and stressed out with all the Flashpoint bullshit. You're just thriving on the hate, like some sort of inverse Palpatine.
This is mad, right? Because people will think I'm saying this just for the cameras. That's why I'm going to reference like an anecdote, right? I had a bunch of people, especially last year, I won't go into what, like put it this way, it's when I did tweets that weren't about esports, who were just telling me like, oh, don't do it. Like, this is the end for you. You know, they're going to come for you. And I just told everyone the same thing. I said, you don't understand. Like, I don't enjoy being wrecked, but I don't dislike it in the way other people do. So I do stay. I'm just like, I am just built for war. Like, peacetime is no good for me.
No, I'll tell you though. I used to be like, I'm old. I'm trying to like get to a point where it's like, it'd just be nice to have a day where it's just not, you know, part of an everlasting conflict. Yeah. That'd be nice. Be nice to have a day off. I'm getting weak, mate. You're gonna have to fucking take up the standard, I think, very soon, and you'll have to fight for both of us. It's Valorant launch day. Did you get in?
I think in theory, if I log in, I'm supposed to have a beta access, but I haven't turned on the PC yet.
Yeah.
I'll play it. I'll give it a go. Looks all right.
No, listen, I'm going to do a review on it. I already talked with the Riot guys because they were very nice.
Here's the thing. You've actually figured out the pivot way ahead of me. Because here's the thing, right? I was sort of against Valorant because everyone kept contrasting it against CS. And it's obviously nothing like CS and definitely won't replace CS. But you figured out the pivot. If it's just about using Valorant to dunk on Overwatch, now this saloon is open for business. Come all.
No, but here's the thing, right? Like, so if you need an assessment of the landscape, I've seen twitlongers, and we're going to talk about some twitlongers on the show today. I've seen some twitlongers from Fortnite players. I've seen some twitlongers from other Battle Royale players. I've seen and I've seen many a twitlonger from the Overwatch players. In fact, I just tweeted out a screenshot. Well, it's a fucking exodus, mate. Like, fucking Moses is at the head of the fucking queue, like, trying to split the fucking sea for all the Overwatch players just to get to Valorant. And keep in mind that one of the selling points of the Overwatch League was meant to be that it was a hermetically sealed, self-contained, guaranteed path to pro for everybody who wanted it. Wonderful professional environment. Now, maybe some people don't think it's a great professional environment when they make, you know, less salary than the average person in McDonald's. One talent agency controls everyone, represents both the players and the teams, and you get fined $1,000 for using the word big dick on a server, which can only be seen by the general public because Activision Blizzard accidentally enabled it to do so. So, you know, maybe people don't want to do that. But this is the thing that upsets me. If they were leaving for like other games, you would go, well, they're just giving it a go. Like, best of luck to you. Happened to us, right? Remember with Counter-Strike, the iBuyPower players were like, see you in Overwatch. Even Steel did it for a little bit, but very quickly realized, you know, actually, there's not a lot going on here. The point is, they are leaving their scene, their professional scene with a professional league that costs you $25 million to buy into, remember, for a non-existent esports scene. And we don't know if Valorant's going to be another Apex Legends flash in the pan streaming sensation, but no real body or substance to sustain an esports scene. But all the Overwatch players are chancing it. I haven't seen a single Counter-Strike player, with the exception of Swag, and now AZK today, if you want to know where he's been. He's coming to the T1 team with Swag and Valorant. The iBuyPower reunion might be on. If he gets dazed and Steel, like, they could be one of the biggest teams in the scene. I'm probably one of the best, honestly. But anyway, side issue. We'll save that for the Valorant edition of By the Numbers that we are going to sneakily do because we're cynical, money-grubbing fucks. But I haven't seen a single pro player yet.
No, I haven't even heard anything about it.
Hey, you know what? This Counter-Strike thing, fuck it. I'm off to Valorant to go be a king. Because we all know there's only one king, and its name is Counter-Strike. Interestingly enough, by the way, I agree with
you, by the way. Even privately, I haven't heard a single player even reference that they might go to it. Like, they might play it, but no one's saying, like, they're really looking at it as a trajectory, you know?
No, so I'm keeping an eye on it, and I'm keeping an open mind, because I always have an open mind about things. Riot have been very good and have given me access to the game, specifically contacted me for access, said I didn't have to sign any NDAs for that access, said I can write whatever I want, say whatever I want,
But Richard, it's standard in all interactions in the world to sign NDA.
It's weird. If I was a Reddit mod,
the NPCs
5 years ago, if I was a Reddit mod 5 years ago, apparently signing an NDA would be normal. But if I'm a journalist now, not getting early access to something, I don't have to sign an NDA anymore. Another interesting aside, by the way, they publicly stated what we've all known for 5 years, that actually they don't even make the mod sign NDAs anymore because that is a bit weird and abnormal. And the Reddit staff that said it was perfectly fine, despite having rules that you shouldn't enter into contracts with corporations, and the Reddit mods who said NDAs are just standard, and the lawyers who incredibly want business from you because they read your contracts for you said it was all standard, all full of shit. Incredible, isn't it? That it only took 6 years of misery and hatred and slogging away for me to actually be proven right once again.
The thing I'll never get, Rich, is this. This is no exaggeration. I want everyone who's a fan listening now to just do a thought experiment, right? When we talk, do you just think that we're like you and we just watch YouTube videos and then we just give meta commentary? Like, are we just a react channel? Or are we literally two of the most credible journalists in the history of the entire field who know thousands of people who were behind the scenes and even have them come to them with information? If you believe the latter, why do you always treat it like it's the former? Why do you always act like, for example, in that NDA scenario there, the reason it's such an NPC response is, do you think Richard's never been in a scenario where he's had an NDA or got an early access? It's not like it's his first day on the job, is it? Like, all right, what's this NDA for? Well, Richard, you have to understand, when you get into business like us, you have to sign that. Like, you're the person who's never been in the industry in that scenario, telling the person who's the most experienced how it's working. The fuck is everyone talking about?
I could have been in. I could have protected myself from the whole load of bullshit in 2015 if I'd just signed the NDA DreamHack hastily cobbled together to put under my nose, which they told Loader I was going to sign, agreeing never to speak about it again. After Loader had already told his, fictitious version to the public. Crucially, what would have happened if I'd signed the NDA is DreamHack would have continued to work with me, and they wouldn't have publicly lied about me. But I refused to sign the NDA.
Which shows how the level of integrity those guys have, by the way. Because remember, they spotted that it was them on the moral high ground and that they were casting you out of the Garden of Eden. Not true at all, of course, because as you just pointed out there, they would have worked with you. Continue, of course they would have.
Yeah, exactly. Listen, I've got an open mind. There's been a lot of, cycling of the old staff out, the old guard at Riot Games. The Valorant crew are a new breed of rioters. In fact, funnily enough, one of the rioters that I talked to who's working on Valorant used to be a journalist. We got back into an argument via email and he showed me the email. He goes, "I've always kept this because I absolutely wrecked him." And he goes, "You fucking just eviscerated me, and I've never forgot it, and it's always given me a renewed respect for you." So I'm all about mending fences, especially as I get older, So I'm like, listen, I'm going to review your game. I'm going to talk about it. Honestly, I might even do some content around it. And I don't see it as a Counter-Strike killer. I think all the reports of people saying the only reason CS's numbers were knocking on the door to 1.3 million is because of the Valorant launch is gibberish, because we were experiencing steady growth prior to that. And I don't think it's going to take a big chunk of the Counter-Strike player pool away. I think we'll see a reduction in numbers this month. Beyond that, I don't know. But I think the Overwatch League and Overwatch Pro basically walking away from like salary potentials to just go and play a game with friends. That's an awful look for a $25 million esports league that's been on ABC, has business with Disney.
I'll even add, like, if people aren't aware, because Monty's mentioned this many times on our league shows, another thing about Valorant that people might not be aware of that makes the context of that even crazier, that they're leaving these $1 million franchises where they get like okay salaries, but still a salary when some of them were fucking TF2 players before. It's even crazier when you consider thus far, Valorant Riot behind the scenes has said they have no plans to launch an LCS type franchise league immediately. They're going to sort of let the scene breathe and go. So basically these people aren't even thinking, I'll get ahead of the track and just be the first, LCS player for Valorant. It's like, no one knows if there will be an LCS yet. So it's actually basically more of an indictment of Overwatch than it is praise to Valorant, because obviously no one fucking knows Valorant yet until you started.
Of course. Now, that's the paid Valorant plug. Thanks a lot, Riot Games. So let's do another paid plug for, obviously, the show sponsor, .com. You can actually see from the banner, that'll be blurred out if you're watching this on YouTube because of YouTube's inconsistent rules about certain websites being allowed to be sponsors. It is when you pay YouTube, basically, is the rule of thumb. You'll also see that we've got the .com with 9 E's. We've actually purchased that URL so you can get there. But .com are an esports betting platform. They're a great sponsor to have. They've sponsored me now for fucking hell. It's a long time, isn't it? Well, like 18 months, maybe longer. Maybe all coming up on 2 years.
Yeah,
I don't know.
about that.
But they've been great to work with, and they're a great platform for anybody that wants to go and sort of place some bets on some esports events. You can go to .com/RLS. That's a referral code, so obviously it shows you came from this show. You sign up. They're running all sorts of promotions. You don't even have to gamble. Occasionally they do this thing called Thunderdome, which you can learn more about by put an exclamation point Thunderdome in the chat, and you basically make predictions like I do when I tweet them out, and if you get them all right, you can win some money. There's all sorts going on over there. They even do content, they write articles, so just go over and support them. They're a great sponsor to have, and we're very lucky to have them over. Right, we missed something last week, Duncan. We missed something.
What's
you know, and I'm amazed that we forgot about this because I know this is going to be a topic dear to your heart. ESA-Tag.
Oh,
and the
yes.
6-man roster. Yeah, we did. We fucked up, didn't we? We were in a rush. It was my bad. I got the time of day wrong because, you know, that's just quarantine life. So we did a short show last time around. But this is going to be nice, long, the kind of show that you're used to. So let's start by talking about that. Now, for those who don't know, ESA-Tag is a Danish player who was on the Heroic roster. Heroic had not gone into the ESL Pro League, and instead that roster was going to be playing in Flashpoint under the what's it called, Fun Point Phoenix.
Fun Plus Phoenix.
Fun Plus, sorry, not Fun Point. Got points on the brain. Yeah, so they were going to be playing there, which is a Chinese organization that had in principle agreed to acquire the roster. Now, obviously, as we know, rosters are 5 players. And what happened was somewhere along the line, ESA-Tag decided that he didn't want to re-sign his contract, probably after he was approached by Astralis, or the org was approached by Astralis. We don't know.
I can give you some info on this in a minute if you want.
Yeah, cool. And basically ESA-Tag said, listen, I want to go and play for Astralis as a 6th man, as a substitute. So initially, Heroic talked about a buyout for the player, which was, I mean, the word on the streets was it was like something very exorbitant for the
800K, I think they said, wasn't it?
800,000.
Which is basically saying suck my dick.
Yeah, of course. And as a result of that, ESA-Tag said, I'm going to wait out my contract. This information got back to Fun Plus Phoenix. They said, well, we thought we were getting 5 players. That completely jeopardized the deal. And then ESA-Tag has now become Astralis' 6th man. So before we even debate the 6th man issue, it was this unbelievable long protracted saga that has essentially meant that Fun Plus Phoenix now no longer have the Danish players. They picked up the Bad News Bears lineup from NA instead, so they can meet their commitments to the Flashpoint League. And now this is absolutely in limbo. And Cadian in particular put out a little video of him walking, like literally took the shirt off his back, this org did, walking topless.
It was like the end of an Incredible Hulk episode, wasn't it?
No, was it? Yeah, like just fucking full crying. And I'll be honest, I felt sorry for him. I felt sorry for the cunt. Yeah. So this whole thing is an absolute mess.
I mean, Nicola and I literally took the shirt right off his back.
Yeah, no, I'm sure that won't be the first time he's done that to someone, and won't be the last. But anyway, so let's just talk about this because it was a huge saga, and I think people assumed we wouldn't talk about it on the podcast because I've seen a few comments on Reddit, which of course bear no resemblance to reality, about how, well, now that Thorin is involved in Flashpoint, it makes it hard for Richard to talk about Flashpoint because he doesn't want to offend his friends. And
I can give you more info than's currently known at the moment. I'll give you the.
Yeah, come on then, fucking let's do it.
Based on what I know. Now, obviously, this isn't all official. Like, obviously, majority of it isn't even going to officially be out there. This is the way I am aware that the deal went down. So the FPX team wanted to buy Heroic's 5-man lineup. Understandable. It's the number 14 team in the world at the time. And by the way, little gem for you. They were also bidding for some even better teams than that, some exceptionally good teams. They just ended up settling on the Heroic one because it was a last-minute deal and they wanted to get in. Hence why they joined our league like the day before, something mental. Now, when they did this deal, on the Heroic side, of course, it's a great deal. They're selling these players that, listen, 14th best in the world is great, but if a massive Chinese org comes with loads of money, you fucking sell. That's just the way Esports is right now. So they want to sell their 5 players. Everyone's happy. FPX gets Heroic's roster. Heroic gets the big money. And also, if you're a Heroic player, you get that little salary bump. So, of course, everyone's happy. But here's where the problem comes in. It turns out Essetag had already been approached by Astralis. As far as I'm aware, it's supposedly because those guys, remember, Heroic used to be owned by Refresh. And so as a result, good old boy Nicola Nyholm knew the contracts that they were on. And he knew when the contracts ran out in a way that other people didn't. So he, while this other deal was going on, convinced Essetag to join Astralis. Understandable why Essetag would say yes there. But the problem is that meant suddenly FPX and Heroic are in a scenario where FPX is like, well, I don't want to buy 4 players for a massive amount of money, like millions of dollars. So instead, FPX initially thinks, right, how about this? We'll pay you less. We'll make the buyout less. But now Heroic, this is the key mechanism you have to understand. This is the key point here, is the Heroic side, not Astralis, not FPX. Because then Heroic, understandably, was like, so our deal's been fucked because one guy's leaving in a few months. He wants to play out his contract and go to Astralis. So basically, because this is why you saw the Heroic owner say that he is going to have a lawsuit against Astralis. And so here's the problem, though. The reason Cadian was left out on his arse is not because that meant FPX dumped the team and then the players had to go back and they had no spot. What happened was, since this was all taking place, obviously like during the first 2 days of Flashpoint, it was basically suggested by FPX and by Flashpoint to the Heroic players, like, can you just play out this particular tournament and then figure all that shit out later and, do whatever you're going to do? The problem is, as far as I'm aware, the Heroic owner didn't want them to because it could damage his case. How can he then go and have a lawsuit against someone and then say, but you did let those players play? So unfortunately, I understand why on his side, he had to basically chop the deal in half and wreck everyone, essentially. It wasn't his fault. He was pushed in that position. But I get on his end, this is probably the biggest deal that guy's going to make in many years. I get why he had to protect his own interest. So sadly, it ended up sort of fucking everyone except Astralis, as far as I can tell.
Yeah, so, I mean, this is an interesting component of it because, I think everybody knew immediately that there was something that had gone on there because of Heroic having been under the Refresh banner before. Refresh, for those who were new, is the parent company that Nicola Nyholm was behind originally, which was his play to essentially monopolize the scene, initially through multiple team ownership, which they got around by saying it's just media rights, wink, 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 wink. And that was, Norse, Godsend, Heroic, Astralis. He wanted one for sort of each of the Nordic and Scandic regions. And eventually...
Heroic, you said Norse there.
Yeah, Norse was one as well.
Norse? What the fuck is Norse?
That was another one of the organizations.
Was there a really team called that? I didn't know that.
Yeah. Do you not remember them? They existed. Anyway, neither here nor there. I mean, that probably is that's one of the teams that was consigned to the annals of history, evidently. But anyway, and Heroic were in there too. So basically, that was their plan to sort of essentially monopolize the scene by having one of the, a team in each region. And what we ended up with was this was becoming commonplace because we had Virtus Pro, Na'Vi, SK Gaming doing the same guys, shit. Sure. So Valve once again, just as the scene is about to fall under the weight of its own corruption, Valve come in and make a rule and kind of
DSX Valve along. They do like to do those, don't they?
yeah. Fucking Valve created by the people that wrote the 4th season of Game of Thrones, evidently. But so they came in and they put a foot down and said multiple team ownership is bad. And then since then, these teams were sort of sold off and became their own entities. To what degree, we don't know. But the reality is that Nicola Nyholm obviously would have an understanding of all of those organizations, all of those relationships with those players. And as you say, perhaps even intimate knowledge of the details of the contracts. Now, this is where I'm a little bit out of my depth because I don't know what the big play is here. Usually I can see all the pieces on the board, but I have to assume there's some sort of malevolence or malicious intent from NiKo, and I assume that not just because of his personality, but I assume that because I don't think Esatag is a player that is good enough.
That's the problem, isn't it? You've nailed it there, Rich. This is the problem. If this was like one of the if this deal, I know it couldn't have been, but let's imagine just because they're the relevant players now, this was actually like Acor from Mad Lions, and he was going to join Astralis, and the idea is, you know what, either Device has health issues or he needs a month off, he's burned out. So what we're going to do is we're going to bring in the next best Danish AWPer, and he's going to be the sixth man. He's going to get, that would all make sense. Those pieces for everyone make sense. That's where I'm with you. The problem is, Esatag was in theory like maybe the best player in Heroic, but he was, put it this way, nobody in the universe was like, why isn't he in the top 20 players for 2019? Like, he wasn't that type of player. So the idea that like Astralis desperately needed this guy is way less plausible than, wow, I've just found a way to last second fuck Flashpoint, which I'm obviously at war with. I'm NiKo AMA. I'm like, which one seems more likely? Again, like the old saying goes, who benefits? That's what you always ask, right? Yeah. And at the moment, the only person who benefits is fucking Astralis. I don't even know yet if Esatag benefits because we haven't yet to know if he'll ever play.
Yes, so this is where you have to ask yourself, you know, is he petty enough to essentially spend money by salarying a sixth player from an organization that just announced a $5 million loss? Because now it has to publicly declare its finances because it's floated on the stock market. Is he going to increase expenditure simply to maybe lash out at former business partners, to essentially destabilize a league that is a rival to the league he's committed to very publicly in the form of ESL? But also, I don't know what his relationship's like with the Blast now that he's gone.
I mean, he dissed him on Twitter, didn't he? So who knows?
Yeah, I assume it's actually bad. But but if there was a positive relationship there, it would behoove them also.
Sure.
But the question becomes, do we paint NiKo out as some Saturday morning cartoon villain to the degree that he's willing to, you know, financially jeopardize a business that he now has a public fiduciary duty to, simply to get back at Heroic, simply to get back at Flashpoint? I don't know if I can even go that far myself, but it is strange that Esatag is the player that is deemed worthy when, first of all, there's a plethora of Danish talent.
Of course.
You know, and I would argue I'm not even sure he got the best one from the Heroic roster. So it's a very strange situation.
How about this? Let me give you a counterpoint to that position, because I agree. It seems implausible, especially if you don't know NiKo AMA. It seems like, would they really go that much further? I would guess it's not entirely that. I would guess it's one of those scenarios. I'll give you a contrast. Think about the way global politics works, right? One thing you can inarguably prove is that when America does something for humanitarian reasons, if you look into it, there is always a business reason behind it that also makes sense. They almost never are really just giving money away for free to someone because they're nice. Because let's face it, grow the fuck up. Who would do that? No one. You do it because even if publicly that's what it appears to be, behind the scenes you gain influence, or directly you benefit. Maybe businesses do work there. So in a similar sense, I could believe that maybe only 40 or 50% of the reason was to fuck with Flashpoint, and the other 50% was it was expedient. Like, maybe there is a reason they need a sixth player. Maybe someone is burned out in Astralis. Maybe someone even says, fuck it, if we don't know when we're going to be on land next, I've been killing myself for the last 2 years playing the game. I want to chill out. Let's bring someone else in. I could believe that. But here's the problem. If you're asking, would NiKo AMA be petty enough? Let me just paint a little picture for you with a direct anecdote from the last week. So when that whole non-story came out, what we talked about on the last episode, where people in the industry who claimed to be experts and insiders pretended like Flashpoint invented viewbotting and were viewbotting by embedding the Flashpoint stream on the face.
Something everyone in the industry does, by the way.
When those people came out and showed that that's what happened, NiKo AMA replied to one of the HLTV journalists who said that and just said, pathetic. Now, now 2 days later, I showed that ESL to this day is still doing the same behavior. They even embedded, by the way, a fucking New Zealand game, which I would never choose to be a viewer of. But when I went to ESEA.net, I was a viewer of, and I've been counted in those views. And then yesterday bragged about the numbers for the viewership for the New Zealand fucking match and Australia. So they are not only doing that, they're doing an even more egregious version of this. Like, this isn't like Flashpoint is doing some fucking CIS tournament and putting it on their platform. They're doing Flashpoint. So anyway, here's the point. Whereas he called Flashpoint pathetic, he has no comment on ESL. Someone he already knew was doing this behavior. So is he petty enough? Well, he just showed there he has no integrity as a professional or a human. Enough said.
Yeah. And look, I mean, fuck. I don't even think you need to get down into the weeds and the minutiae to prove that. This is a guy who has habitually lied to the community, tried to lie to me. I mean, the reason it's so rich that he said that the idea that he would know the heroic contract, Rich, is he told you publicly that they never owned a heroic. Yeah.
You remember that?
Yeah, I do. I mean, this is what I mean, though. It's like, the pattern of Nihom's behavior is pretty much the same every time. He does something worthy of derision or criticism, sometimes something that's inherently dishonest. You call him out about it because it gets discovered, usually by the vigilance of a journalist or the watchdog type figure. He denies it. It is proven to be unequivocally true. He tries to justify it as just being business as usual, and then will reach out to the person who's exposed them in a bid to seduce them over to the financial dark side. Come and have cocktails with me. I have access to a helicopter, don't you know? Perhaps you have a project I'd like to invest in. Whatever it is, he tries to exude this idea that, if you come on side with me, you're on the winning team, essentially. And
what I love about that as well, by the way, is it shows the way his mind works. He really thinks just like he is, everyone's for sale. So all he wants to know is what's your number? And what he doesn't realize when he comes up against people like you, me, DK, is guess what? We aren't for sale, mate.
No, I think I've made that point on the podcast before. I think that's what drives him mad. I think it's because, when you start dealing, and I've had the great displeasure of dealing with millionaires, multimillionaires, people that control tens of millions of dollars in VC funds, other people's money, investors. They don't understand why money isn't your bottom line. They can't interface with you. And it frustrates them because it's like, why are you not like me? Why don't you see me in a suit? Why don't you see me with a nice car, with a watch that costs more than your house? Why don't you want to be like this? And it's like, I just ain't wired to be a cunt, mate. At the end of the day, I'm just not wired to be a pathetic, tawdry cunt. Like, you're going to lie on your deathbed and be like, oh, yep, shit. Like, there is no lasting Nihome empire. You know what I mean? It's like, you're going to sell all this shit for more money when you invariably get bored of this little toy you're playing with. So, I'm trying to build something I can be proud of. So at least when I'm lying on my fucking deathbed, I'm like, well, I tried. I didn't do exactly everything I wanted to do, but I got pretty goddamn fucking close. I lived on my own terms. I never compromised. I'll take that. Fuck this guy, and fuck them all. I hate the sleazy, kind of money men that have like slowly trickled into esports. All of them fakers and fucking charlatans and liars, and they're always the same. They come bearing gifts.
Oh, that's the part.
They're really polite and nice to you up front because they think if they can leverage your influence in the scene, if I just get Richard on side, if I just get a Thorin on side, if I just get a Scoots on side, then everyone will think I'm the real deal. And they become immensely frustrated when you don't want to play their game because I'm looking at a bigger picture. I've been here for 2 decades. I'm thinking about the next 2 decades. I'm not thinking about your little 5-year plan to make 20 million, 30 million, 40 million off this shit. I don't give a fuck about building a brand that I sell. I want to build a brand that, when I croak, people go, oh, well, he was an asshole on Twitter and he blocked me one time, but he did good work, So we're just wired in different ways, I think. And I believe if there was more of us types, the industry would be in a better place. I don't think we need more Nihomes.
No.
That's just my take on it. But anyway, let's talk about the sort of mechanics of the deal. First of all, the concept of 6-man rosters.
Yes.
It's been tried before. It's been talked about before. People have intimated it can be a good idea. I think the prescribed wisdom in Counter-Strike is that it cannot work. It doesn't work because of the rigors and the needs and the requirements of everybody in a team to be all on the same page. Some people are a little bit like, oh, you can have map specialists that you swap in and out. I've never known a player that impactful on one map that's a reality.
Yeah.
But what we do know is the demands of travel and the demands of the sheer volume of games people are playing now. Maybe a substitute makes sense now more than it ever did. What do you think?
Put it this way, the one area, as you closed on it perfectly there, the one area I could see it making sense is when essentially you admit up front it's not to make the most optimal five-man lineup in that game. If you do it as a semi-cynical or maybe just very realistic move that you know people do get burned out when they play a million tournaments, and so your idea here is, right, Esatag, the upside for you is you get a chance to prove yourself with Astralis. The upside for us is when we play, say, like a tournament that's a throwaway for us, maybe they don't care about, I don't know, IM Sydney or something. That's not like it's not like the crown jewel of CS, is it? Maybe there's a tournament or a DreamHack Masters that they're just going to attend anyway. If it's just a tournament that's a throwaway, perfect. Send him in, let Device or Dupree or whoever it is who wants to stay home have a month off. And then maybe that's the way you refresh people and you don't have to have what they had last year where you had that period of the Astralis period where they went off the fucking cliff because they weren't attending tournaments. Maybe this is a way to have a pressure valve release, as it were, to not have to do that, not have to literally skip the real lineup from the tournaments. But the problem is that's very realistic and I could discuss that. The initial premise you were setting up was what everyone always does of like, wouldn't it be great if you had a guy so that the example here would be, so Astralis famously doesn't play Mirage. Maybe he's at the best Mirage B-side anchor in the world and now they play Mirage as well. And oh shit, they're sobbing in a Satag. He's playing Mirage. No, that I think is almost certainly not going to happen.
I think that's what people want in their minds.
It's the dream, isn't it? It's just too implausible based on the things that I know about the game and just the way the game tends to work. And also again, if that was the case, Esatag ain't that player, is he? Like, which map is he so sick on that Astralis had to have him? That's the problem with the logic. It doesn't quite check out. And I will also say, in the past instances I'm aware of people doing 6-man lineups, the majority were in 1.6. I don't know source. I can just say every instance it ever happened, it was never actually a choice of the team. As in, it was something like they secretly were going to replace one of them in 2 months, or it was World Cyber Games and this guy's Norwegian and we're Swedish. It was like there was reasons they did it that were just like external. It was never that anyone genuinely thought having all of these 6 players and sobbing one in and out is better than just the 5 and then being at peak level. I've never heard of that latter scenario existing.
Yeah, and the closest I can even think of is like Flamey on Mirage, funnily enough. He always seemed to drop a 30 on that map, but again, I don't think it's a concept that exists in Counter-Strike. You know, way back when I used to play, we had like a fucking 7-man roster we went to one LAN with, but that wasn't necessarily to swap people out because somebody was better on a map. It was because it was whoever was the least hungover in the morning played. Like that was reasonable. That's how we did it. It was like, right, okay, Rory didn't get too fucked up tonight. Bushaw's being sick in a bin. He's out. Rory's in. That's how we rolled. Like, I mean, that was like what Counter-Strike was back in 2006 or whatever the fuck. But
and you guys have to realize that in no way would that make sense for Astralis. Astralis is the opening of fucking American Psycho. Like, I'm in the shower at the event and I apply a light skin mask. That's the Astralis player. They're just doing everything perfect. They're not getting hungover the night before.
Well, listen, you say they do everything perfect. Let me tell you, there's one thing that Astralis do better than anyone else, and that is just they put out a line of bullshit. That is it. I mean, seriously, you'd get halfway through eating it before you realized what you'd put in your mouth. And that is, you know, I saw there was an interview with Zonic where the headline.
We've said this before. Can I just say this to start off with? Before Richard gives you the example, I'm going to reiterate something Richard said a few episodes back. Right, I have insane respect for Zonic as a player, as a coach, even as a man. Would you stop being the mouthpiece for obvious fucking lies and dishonest statements, mate? Like, you don't have to do this. You have literally built up such credibility that it's like that joke about where, you know, that fucking, I think it's like Chris rock joke where he says like, we gave Michael Jackson one kid before we even got bothered because the joke is that they liked his music that much. It's like that with you, Sonic. We've let you get away with the first 5 lies, mate, because that's how cool you are. Eventually, you have to get called it. Yeah, timestamp that.
Yeah, allegedly.
Oh yeah, he's dead now, but allegedly gave him one kid.
But yeah, no. So Sonic put out this interview where he said Essetag will be a part of the team on equal terms with everybody else, and you know,
they're all going to play. They're all going to take a map off. Cool. Can't obviously be true, can it? That's. He's not only told you the lie, Rich. He's had to. This is how you know he's been put up to it. He's over the pudding. What he should have just said is, "We'll play him."
Yeah. So okay, I'm like, when I saw that headline, I thought, "Oh, that's HLTV." You know, like we're all in the game. We all know what you have to put a good quote up front that's going to make people click on it to go, what the funk? And you click on it and you go and you have a look, right? And that's that, right? But when you actually look at the full quote, it's worse. It actually makes less sense. He said, Essetag will be a part of the team on equal terms with everybody else. We will have 6 players on the team, not 5, and a substitute. So I guess that's one way to get back on form, lads. I mean, fuck. So the way he's making it sound is that Essetag's just going to slot straight in his team, be fucking included, is going to be a legitimate player. Astralis would be insane. Now, this is the other broader part of the discussion I wanted to bring into. We all know what Astralis' results have been like lately.
They've definitely been struggling this year.
Yeah, like 2020, I mean, you know, once they got past the start of it, hasn't been a good time for Astralis at all. And, you know, Device tweeted out that he's been struggling online. You know, they lost, fair enough, like at Katowice, they did lose to Na'Vi. Na'Vi went on to win the tournament. But then let's look at the ESL Pro League and the matches they've lost. You know, they've lost to NIP. They've lost to Na'Vi again. They lost to Fnatic the other day.
Dude, they almost lost to ENCE.
Yeah. Yeah, they had a very close series with ENCE, exactly. Jesus. So yeah, that's fucking insane. So for me, I wondered if this was like a prelude to a roster move, and what they wanted to do was they've got a player in mind, and they wanted to bring him in as a 6th, not make a big song and dance about it because we know that doesn't help anybody.
You just make him pressure on him, scapegoat, wouldn't you? Transition.
Yeah. And then what you do is, secretly behind the scenes, you're playing with that 5. Probably he's on alt accounts, so nobody sees it because someone will have the server detail. And actually, you're testing the waters on that, and not, you know, because making a roster change up front without knowing, it's not a smart decision a lot of the time. You know, you're rolling the dice. I agree.
We don't. That's one of actually the areas in CS you could make a decent meta point about, which is one area we don't have in CS is we don't have a proper trial period. Like you basically just have to go all in on a player, and if it doesn't work like Guardian and Na'Vi, you just shit for a few months. And now the reason it always worked in CS vaguely is because we have that many tournaments. You can sort of quickly tell if it works or not. But one thing that people won't have thought of, this is one of these areas where people don't always like put stuff together. When Sonic made that statement that they will have 6 players, not he said 5 and a sub, right? And implies he will be on equal terms. So he's going to be subbing in for Glaive, is he? And fucking IGL in the game. I don't think so.
And Device.
So there's one player we know he's not replacing. Oh, is he replacing Device? I don't think so. There's about, let's be real. If I had to guess, he's replacing fucking Dupree or Zipmix. That's it. And probably Dupree if I had to guess, based on current form and all the things that's gone on. Like, I would guess maybe him. So again, why? Listen, you can definitely spin something your way, but that you definitely over-egged the pudding making those statements.
Yeah, and just some thoughts in general. I mean, like on Astralis and sort of where their current form is. I mean, they're still the greatest team to do it in CS:GO, right? So you know, with this is the ultimate core of CS:GO players. You know, do they need to make any changes? Like, or is it a case of the way out is through? Like once we get away from these online leagues and we get back to normality in a post-COVID world, hopefully in a few months, like are Astralis going to be okay, or you know, is this the end of the roster? I feel like we've talked about this before in the Astralis era, you know, but like, but all great things have to come to an end, right?
Yes, exactly. That's the thing. I actually personally think even though at the time they didn't plan it this way, I'm almost certain. I actually think the Astralis era ended up helping them because it gave them respite and also, by the way, incredible motivation when everyone was talking shit on them to then come back full force and have that great push towards the end of the year and look like coming into this year, they were the absolute top dogs who were going to rule the scene again. But the problem is, as you say, all good things do come to an end. Every roster runs out in the end, whether that's just literally individually you decay, the roster falls back, or people make rosters that are literally beaten to destroy you, counter you, figure you out, etc. Now, the problem is Astralis already is way past the date that you would have thought they would have run out. It's already amazing they've gone this long. So I actually do think if you look at them as a team, they already were going to be not as dominant this year. I think they still, as you said, like Katowice, let's face it, they would have won if they hadn't lost to Na'Vi. Like, they were the second best team there after Na'Vi, in my opinion. So I still think they're a very good team. My problem is this. They only had the 2 LANs, and then they came straight to this online phase. And the first LAN was the Blast one, which they came into after like something mental, like 60 days off or whatever. So I actually do feel like we didn't get to see the proper LAN Astralis. They only played 2 tournaments basically after a big layoff. So actually now, tragically, coming into the major is when they would, in theory, have been peaking. I'm sure they even planned for that. They're the guys that win all the majors, remember? I'm sure they don't plan to be the best 4 months before the major. You plan to be the best a month and a half before the major so you can win the shit. So we don't really get to see that. And I will add as well, they're a team that it's obvious to me would suffer when you go online, because when you go online, loads of their edges don't exist anymore. Like that shit where they all just lurk all over the map on LAN in a big final and everyone shits their pants and fucking push in them. That's doesn't happen online. There's a reason why Space Soldiers qualified for 1 million LANs, boys. There's a reason why fucking Swole Patrol, I've seen qualify for LANs. I had a Team Liquid in the past. Like everything goes, it's anyone's game when it's online, as you've seen, hence why the Enters of the world are almost beating them. So I do feel like the online world is exaggerating their problems, but I think the problems already existed. And it's not like it's like fatal problems, but the cracks were starting to show. And I certainly thought, just as I thought last year, I personally believe if they hadn't won that Star Ladder Major, they would have made a roster move after that. I think it would have just been the time. It would have made sense. Someone maybe would have even done the honourable thing and be like, actually, time for me to retire. I've accomplished everything. And then they bring someone in. But the problem is they didn't. And that's why doing a roster move now doesn't make sense to me. Because back then, think of the timing. Star Ladder Major, they go out. Who would have been available? Fucking Valde was right there. He went to OG. The player everyone knows should be the next player in Astralis, even if you wanted to do the 6-man bullshit. Now he's not available. So the problem I have now is the players you're picking among, because you can't get the Mad Lions players at the moment either, unless they want to pay mega bucks.
Yeah.
You know, it's going to be an underwhelming signing no matter who you sign at this point in time, unfortunately. So that's why I can't buy that. They really sat down and thought, time to make a change to the roster. Because as much as like someone like Dupree might have struggled this year, it's actually Magus because I had a bad time online as well. I'll trust that you can work around that, because that's one thing that Astralis has done that I think did make them the greatest team. They could pivot between players. It didn't have to be the same two. It wasn't like a Forrest and get right, carry every game scenario, and then when one of them's not as good, you're done. When Dupree would have a bad year, it was Magus' year. Obviously, we know Glaive and Zipmix are just literally insurance policies who come into games and win you them. Like, they're one of the teams who could, in theory, withstand player underperformance. So that's why, to me, it has to be an external reason. It has to be something like a player doesn't want to play anymore. To be fair, they have accomplished everything. Someone maybe even has some tragic scenario in real life that's affected them, health issues.
Could be another Hoffmeister type situation. We wouldn't know, right?
Exactly. Yeah. That would make a lot more sense to me for this move here.
Yeah, absolutely. So that was the big story that we forgot about last show. The big story for this show is the Evil Genuises drama, and once again, Twitlonger has played its part. The truth. Right, I just want to talk about a general premise, by the way, before we even get into this, and I think it's essential that Redditors learn this. I think it's good for them. Okay, sometimes, right, just sometimes, your perception of a thing and someone else's perception of a thing can both be correct without contradicting each other. You don't have to pick a side. Me and Duncan can look at an apple, and I can go, that apple is spherical, and Duncan go, that apple. Neither of us are lying. You don't have to go, look, it's red. Duncan's right. Fucking Richard with his spherical chit-chat. What a fucking bell end. But you don't have to do it. You don't have to do it. Our perception of the object is accurate. Now, if I say it's green and he says it, now we're going to have to take a side about objective reality. But not everything that comes out that you say about a thing means that it exists in a binary state. We can, right? So just keep that in mind.
I do secretly, though, as long as it's nothing to do with me, have a fetish for those posts where like one person gives their opinion and perspective, another one gives his perspective, and they go, "Wow, I can't believe the first guy was lying." It's like, what? How would you know? They're just two opinions. What?
Yeah, it's incredible because we're here yet again. So what this relates to is ImAPet. Chet ImAPet Singh has left the coach role at Evil Geniuses. We know Evil Geniuses have been struggling for a while. And this was broken ahead of time by DK that it was a move that was about to happen. They confirmed it a few hours later after DK's story over a double tap ran. And there was a couple of tweets as well where you could tell ImAPet this was an acrimonious split. You don't even need to read between the lines. I think his first tweet was 2020 is a sick prolonged April Fool's joke or something, which I'm not entirely against as a concept. But then he put a twit longer out, and I'll just read you the key part of the twit longer. He said, "It's no secret my relationship with Stan and Tarek was absolutely horrendous. I don't know what I could trust from them in multiple one-on-ones, nor did I agree with how we were changing the team strategically when we were all discussing the direction we needed to take to improve our consistency. There was a lot of hypocrisy on the team, on certain cultural beliefs and views on the game. Opinions were literally changing every day to a point where we weren't even anti-stratting T-sides anymore after a certain tournament, which I will never agree with ever again. I had my changes I wanted to make, and ultimately they didn't happen. And here we are now." So you can see what he said, what he's very, openly doing and alluding to there is that, I had my ideas. I'm good friends with the NRG boys. He even said in the first line, I'm going to miss those guys, but not Stanislaw and Tarek. And he has intimated very clearly there that Stan and Tarek are running the team in the wrong way. His is the right way. And the friction between their relationship was causing a lot of problems in Evil Geniuses. This was immediately seized upon by Reddit as going, "Wow, what a useful insight into what has been going wrong with Evil Geniuses. It is good to know that what the truth about what's happening." Have you ever known somebody that gets fired from a job, especially while we're in a global economic downturn? About that, have you ever known somebody who that their ideas are the best, being told, "Listen, your ideas fucking suck ass," and not only do they suck ass to the point we're not going to implement them, they suck ass to the point we never want to hear another idea from you again. Here's a box, put your things in it, fuck off. Has anybody ever been happy about that and then gone on to talking glowing, objectively truthful terms about the company that's done that to them? It probably happened once or twice in the history of humanity. Obviously, this is a very bitter interpretation of what's gone on. And as I say, in esports, the thing that happens is there's two rules you need to know about making a twit long. In general, if you are of equal standing or better standing than the person you are making the twit longer about, you will always be right. If you are of lesser standing than the person you make the twit longer about, going first with your lies or your version or whatever you want to call it is the worst thing you can do, because when they go second, they will be correct, because the sheep, the little minions that exist online and that can't think critically, that's just how they assess things. If you're the most popular, if you're the most well-liked, if the other person has a negative reputation, a la Stan, you will always win by going first. If they are more popular and more well-liked, they will always win by going second.
The interesting thing about this,
noughts and crosses with a chicken,
I think the interesting thing to me about this was not only when I did an interview last year with Rambo, who briefly coached. I think he was briefly on. He was the complexity coach when Stanislaw was there, and I basically asked him then. He sort of intimated like maybe Stanislaw didn't work that well with coaches. And I remember when Stanislaw joined DG, there was even some people who said privately, Stanislaw doesn't tend to like a lot of coaches. ImAPet is basically on his last legs now. Like he's going to be. It's sort of like he has to audition for his own fucking job. Now, what basically he said there, almost overtly, but read between the lines, is when he says that part about they didn't even want to T-side anti-strats into certain tournament, which I would never agree with. He may as well have just written, as you said, they literally told me, we don't give a fuck about anything you have to say. Stanislaw will just figure this all out with his big brain inside the game. You can just stand behind and watch us. That's it. That's essentially what they were telling the guy. Because what is his... Remember, ImAPet is not known as like a great coach in the external to the game senses. He's there basically to be the nerd who watches all the demos and comes the next day and tells you they're going to play the weak side of train over here, and then they're going to attack you on ecos over here, and then it preps you for all the tendencies. So if they're telling you, by the way, we don't want you to do the one thing you do in the team, they're essentially telling you surplus to requirements. And at that point, you must know in the coming months that you're done. He then has purposely, as you alluded to, tied it to the implication, which any cretin will be able to follow if they don't think critically, to like...
So that's why all their results were bad, exactly at the point he's clearly intimating.
Like, again, he's just doing that to protect his own ass. I will say one thing I'll give him credit for is at least he didn't turn into fucking Daps style and just like, say, it is the right move. I wasn't as good. Like, because I hate that when they do that. You got to have some backbone. At least he fought back.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. But look, so this is the point, though, right?
Oh, like, and by the way, he did then, when waiting for his next job, gave a Hotmail address that you could contact him at.
Yeah.
Maybe just even pay for the domain, imapet.com, you know? But, maybe put your resume up on GeoCities.
He's got a wicked MySpace page. But anyway, look, right? So fucking, let's just call this what it is. Let's not pretend ImAPet doesn't have an ego. Let's not fall into like he's just some good little, nerd in the background that's doing what he's told and augmenting everyone's skill, and he's been done dirty by a serial snake. Let's not pretend that's the narrative, because you've seen the quotes. Like when his teams do well, he's always out front taking credit for how well they do.
Sure.
Now that they've done serially bad and he's been deemed surplus to requirements, he wants to publicly make it absolutely clear none of it is his fault. That is ego. That is pure ego. Like,
it's also
you
bullshit.
Cannot accept part of the blame,
Oh no, that's the other reason. The other reason it's bullshit is this. Is he really implying he hasn't done anything for the last 4 months and he was just sat on his ass pretending to be a coach? If so, that's whack. If Stanislaw and Tarek told you to your face, we don't want to hear any of your thoughts, and you just went, okay, that's whack. If all this happened and you didn't go to the org and say, I'm the coach of this team, either I coach the team or I leave the team, that's whack. You didn't do any of the actual respectable moves in this scenario, ImAPet. You basically just took it. And then when they kicked you out, we're like, oh, woe is me. Look what they did to me. Again, this is like that time I criticized Stanislaw for his twit longer. And the main crux of my criticism was this. Stanislaw, you are the IGL. If you can't win over your players that you're the right person to listen to, why the fuck should I listen to you? You couldn't even get the guy next to you whose job is to listen to you. So similarly, ImAPet, you were the coach, bro. Coach them. When they say we don't want you to do that, tell them, as the coach, I'm going to have to say no to that, I'm afraid, and we're going to have to work on it. You don't just go, okay. Like, that's what a little kid does.
Yeah, but also as well, like, you're just looking at the language, like, cultural beliefs. Don't know what that means.
That could be so sinister in itself, couldn't it? Like,
yeah,
they all Scientologists secretly.
Yeah, what's the intimation there? And then just little things like, I think, okay, it's fine to come out and say, I didn't get on with people in the team, and that's why I'm leaving. That was creating a tense atmosphere. We have different beliefs about the game. So, I think it's best for me to move on. I love these 3 guys. Not so fond of these 2 guys. I am available for work. I think that's perfectly fine. When you start getting down to the minutia, where
a year later in an interview or something, that would be the better way to do it.
Yeah. Don't hold on to the secrets forever. You don't need to hold on to it beyond the grave. Like I said, when Richard Lewis writes Esports Confidential, it's going to blow everyone's fucking minds. Like, and keep in mind, in 10 years, the industry will be ripe for that. Like, fucking believe. But yes. So, you hold on to secrets for as long as they can't damage people and you're not betraying confidences by telling them. I mean, that's the rule of the secret, right? Some secrets do need to go to the grave, but not all of them. Some of them are fucking, pathetic throwaway garbage like this. But anyway, don't say it now, because I don't need to know that Tarek and Stan said we're not going to anti-strat T sides. Assuming that's even true. Yeah, assuming that's even true. You know, how do I know? This is a disgruntled employee who's been fired. The idea that his words are gospel, but of course everybody has gone. Stan is a snake. It's not the first time this has happened in a Stan team. Poor ImAPet. Now, with all of that said, there is this fucking pattern of behavior from Stan teams.
And Tarek always gets Stan.
I was going to say, when Stan and Tarek get together, it's very tough for coaches. It's very tough for certain players.
They're like fucking Paul Gascoigne and Jimmy Five Bellies. You know shit's going down. That's a reference and a half right there as well.
So, I mean, listen, I'm not giving them a pass. Like, but there's nothing they can say. Like, if Stan came out and writes another tweet longer, Stan, when you watch this, do not write another tweet longer.
The real truth.
Yeah, the truth too. But yeah, don't do that. But if he did address it, it would be ultimately pointless. There's nothing Stan can ever do to salvage his reputation again. I think some of it's justified. I think some of it's over exaggerate. For me, I'll just say that when your team hits a point where the coach falls on his sword or his kick, the next kick is you as an IGL. You've now got, I'll be generous. You got 3 months to get this very good EG squad turned around again. Otherwise, this is another failure in the career of Stannis. The end. It cannot be perceived at any point.
I think we just shared server. All right, we're back.
Yeah, we're back.
I even think you can argue, and a lot of people did, that obviously EG was one of those teams on the chopping block for this major. Like, this major was probably going to determine the fate. Most likely, as you say, let's face it, they weren't going to kick fucking Cirque, were they? It was going to be Stanislaw or Tarek. Probably Stanislaw, if I had to guess, by the way he's played. So, like, I actually do think at this point in time, this has to be the last card for him. Not least because whether what ImAPet said is true, it does seem inarguable that the people pushing him out would have included the IGL. It would be very unusual if it didn't.
Oh, yeah. I mean, like, but I'm imagining Stan's mind, you know, he's thinking, well, now that we got ImAPet out of there and I have, like, more carte blanche, like, trust me, this lineup is massively underperforming, and EG aren't going to tolerate that for too long. And I don't think Stanislaw necessarily has the clout to be able to hold like a fucking Hastro will let Nifty do anything situation. You know, they're not there with that relationship yet. So I'll just point that out. Like, I think Stan has to get to a place where, like, there has to be an initial improvement now. And then, you know, if it's true that there has been this conflict, and then they go and improve, well, you don't need to make a tweet longer at that point, because what you've proven is by removing ImAPet, we've got rid of the conflict, everyone's on the same page. What I'm worried about is that clearly the NRG players that came over had a good relationship with Chet, and I don't know how it's going to affect and whether or not they'll still want to play for an IGL that has usurped someone that has worked with them in the past and been a big part of their success.
Yeah, the main issue for me is I don't really know where else they go, because in this scenario, like, who do you get instead of Stanislaw? Because there's names out there I wouldn't mind trying. Like, I'm not against bringing Daps back. Why not? I mean, I know he's in Gen G, but that's not going great at the moment either. Obviously, FNS is out there in August. There's people out there. There's people who can do the job. The problem is, like, in your mind, I think this is part of Evil Geniuses' problem. In their minds, they're still the team that won ESL New York. That's still who they think they can be tomorrow if everything goes right. So in their mind, if you bring FNS in, are we going to be that team? They would say no. So I actually think the players will be the ones that will give Stanislaw the rope to hang himself. The org, I do think that's different. I think the org eventually has to step in if they don't get results soon, because this isn't even just like underperformance. When we talk about Astralis, to put it in relative terms, they underperform when they make the semis. Evil Genius is going like fucking 10th place in some of these tournaments. They're having outrageously bad. Like,
Feast or famine.
EG might be the ultimate fucking honeymoon team I've ever seen, because that honeymoon was so sick, and then the marriage has been a nightmare.
Yeah. You know, I think as well, though, what's interesting is a lot of people are talking about that a replacement coach. You know, people are saying Zeus might go over there.
Seems like an obvious one in light of what's opened up, right?
Yeah, but this is my thought process. I don't think EG are gonna have a coach. I think Stan doesn't want a coach.
He's the God King, is he? It does sound, by the way,
I think so.
As I alluded to before, based on the things I'd heard, that's who he is as an IGL. Like he basically he wants to be a Glaive / Carrigan who thinks like I could do it all myself if I wanted to. So
yeah,
unfortunately, I don't think there's anyone that can coach him.
No, I think at this point, the one deduction I would probably make from just looking at Stan's career and how it's gone, the conflict over at Team Liquid, which again was another great honeymoon team, right? Very good honeymoon team. And obviously we won a tournament that nobody could have foresaw them winning. So he's had a very good career in that sense.
Here's the thing. In Optic, he was wicked. Obviously, won E-League.
Yeah.
Then Liquid was a downtrack. Then he went to Call and they made top 8 at the major. Like, he had his up and downs, but he didn't do much in Liquid, actually. That was a bad one. And by the way, Zeus was his coach then, and Zeus was basically the reason he was kicked. So that's actually a reason you could argue
No, but
against
that's what I was going to say. I mean, like, the one thing I'll stand by there is, like, I think that power struggle is very indicative of how he thinks he should be positioned when he's in one of these teams. And you know, when he went to like NRG, you could see that there was, you know, friction there, and now he's EG, and as you said, great honeymoon period. But I don't think Stan wants a coach. I don't think he wants anyone looking over his shoulder the entire time. I think he does want to be completely in charge and have no one that can ever contradict him. And unfortunately, I honestly think EG are going to give him his way and give him this 3-month period without ImAPet, and I don't know which way it's going to go. It's either going to be we get back to that honeymoon period because this roster's too good, or it's going to be continual disappointing for EG fans. And I honestly think if EG does end up going that way, Stan's like clout is going to be at a fucking all-time low. I mean, it's going to be like really hard for him to get on another like team of this level. He's had quite a charmed career, all things considered, but there will be a point where people are going to say enough's enough. I mean, reputationally, you know, who's he going to play with? He can never play with the Liquid players again. If he blows it with the NRG players after getting them at the promised land of EG, suddenly you're looking at maybe one day going back to Complexity. I don't know if that would ever happen. You know, maybe if Blame F shits the bed over there, but Complexity seem to be in a good spot. So, like, I think Stan really has to make this work for him. It does make me wonder as well a little bit about the career suicide pact him and Tarek happen to have, because when you look at Tarek's performance in this roster, you can make an argument. Yeah, you can make an argument to say maybe Tarek shouldn't be in the roster at all, and maybe that's where you make the cut. That if you were being brutally honest about it, you don't kick your coach, you kick the player that's statistically underperformed.
The problem with that, though, that last point you made about Tarek is, listen, if we're just talking about kicking the worst player in the team, I would kick Tarek tomorrow. Like, I think actually in the server, he does very badly in terms of fragging. But there's a few things that I know or have heard that make me think that it's more likely Stanislaw goes before Tarek goes. And the following 3 facts. One, I guess not, some of them aren't facts. Some of them are just things I've heard. 3 things. 1, I've heard behind the scenes that Tarek in this team actually is like a facilitator. Like, he will play spots other people don't want to play. So as a result, you also have bad stats. That goes hand in hand.
He's also the motivational dude in the team.
There's the other thing. Secondly, he is the emotional leader. Tarek is the captain of Evil Genuises, not Stanislaw. Stanislaw's the IGL. Tarek is the captain. And then thirdly, there is the fact that based on what I've heard, Tarek is also the guy who is sort of the orgs man. He's the guy who's the Evil Genuises man. He was the person who was there when he came to NRG. I'm guessing was the NRG guy. Remember, the others are all really young and barely ever been pros. So essentially, he's the Pied Piper. He's the one setting the tune. So that would be the culture clash in my opinion. If you rip Tarek out of the team, maybe it would be for good, but in this scenario, it'd be a big overhaul. It's not as simple as just taking out the worst player and plugging another guy in.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. So, you know, we'll wait and see what EG are going to do, how they'll operate in the post-ImAPet era. But a lot of people saying they're going to get a coach. You know, people are saying Zeus will be over there. I don't know if that's true. And I think if you know the history of like Liquid, for example, then the idea that Stan and Zeus are going to like, you know, get this relationship running up again, like, I don't think there was ever a positive relationship there. It was a him or me situation. So
yeah, one thing about that I will say is one thing I can't begrudge Stanislaw is this. if he doesn't want Zeus to join just because of what happened years ago, and you might think, well, that's very petty, isn't it? Why not try and work together and win? No, I can fuck with that. That is my style. What I do is I don't always get revenge on people now because it'd have to be a very small revenge. I wait until I'm the one who's literally, I basically wait until I'm Scar and they're fucking moves fast off the edge of the cliff like, brother, reach me up. And I'm like, see you, bitch. I just let him fucking go. So that I can feel, I fuck with that stuff. So I get it. At this point in time, he's begging you for a job. Fuck him. Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah. That's just another reason why I don't think it's fucking a valid move. And then, you know, a lot of people have been talking about Adren over at Team Liquid and how, you know, he's going to have to go the same way as ImAPet and sort of be the coach that gets kicked and falls on his sword to buy the team extra life without having to make a roster change. It's a tough one for me on that front. I think putting like we talk about emotional leadership and people being captains and people, you know, I think Adren's probably very good in that area. It's not like he doesn't understand the game either. I honestly think that Liquid team are just psychological train wrecks in multiple areas. You know, in different ways, in fact, you know, like Liege is the, you know, God Emperor in his mind, could do no wrong, God tier gamer. Naf, we know, is emo. Stewie is boom or bust. He mind fucks himself into thinking, well, we're losing, so it's got to be me who wins the game, starts making more and more aggressive plays. You can see all the little psychological quirks of each player just by watching the average Team Liquid game. When it all clicks and everything's good and those quirks don't come into play, they look like a world beater. When one by one those dominoes start to fall, Team Liquid come apart at the seams. I don't think you can necessarily blame Adren for not being able to fix that problem. That's beyond a sports psychologist level of problem. That's like a literal get on a couch level of problem and work through your own shit and try and deconstruct some facets of your personality, which is very hard for young people in their 20s to do. You shouldn't even have that sort of level of self-introspection at that age. I would even go so far as to say. So I don't know if Adren's going to go out maybe, and he could be someone that could go to EG. Maybe a fresh start there. But I just think EG will not have a coach, and I think I can't see Stan ever acquiescing to that unless his contract and playing career was contingent on it. Right, next topic. Not a particularly big one here. A roster change though. So as we expected, Chaos, obviously, you know, playing over in the Flashpoint League, they have announced that they've made Voltage a permanent replacement for Smooya now. For those that, again, missed the news, Smooya had a P1 visa interview that was meant to go through with the US Embassy, but due to the coronavirus outbreak, no new visas are being processed. So that means that, unfortunately, Smooya wasn't able to return and compete legally. So he's had to stay in the UK. Chaos announced he was cut from the roster, leaving Smooya a free agent. Don't know where he's going to end up. But they had to bring in somebody to long-term to sort of meet their commitments, and that's going to be Voltage. 20-year-old player. Obviously was playing with them as a stand-in anyway. I guess he's won over Steel in that sense, because trust me, when you play in a Steel team as a stand-in, it very much is an audition.
I have a problem with this move. As someone who's just spent the last 2 weeks watching Voltage play these matches out and play for the Chaos team.
You didn't rate him, did you? You don't rate him at all.
My problem is, I think he's just like, I can see why he got the chance to play in the team, but I don't think he's a good enough AWPer because he's the primary AWPer, basically. Like, I can see why Steel might be willing to work with him because Steel already understands in that team, I'm never going to get my choice of players. I'm always working with just like flawed players and trying to get them to work. So my logic as to why Steel would be willing to use him is because he basically just looks like he does what he's told. Like, he holds the normal AWP lines. He plays very positionally as an AWPer, basically, in a way that if you're an IGL, that can be good. He's a known quantity. You know what to do. Also, IGLs, it's just a trend that goes with a trait, rather, that goes with the role. IGLs have to believe all their players can improve and that you can get more out of them and that you can do more with them, because that's part of the job of being an IGL, is trying to make the puzzle pieces fit and put someone in a new spot. And you don't, as an IGL, you're not the GM. You can't just go, right, I'll cut this guy and bring this next guy. Often you have to just work with these pieces and keep trying stuff until it works. So if you Steel, you've had some promising early results. I guess looking at the Flashpoint level, which is mainly tier 2 teams, yeah, you're having results. You can compete, certainly. My problem is Contrasting 1-to-1 with Smooya, he's not on Smooya's level. Like Smooya was way more assertive, way better AWPer even, and was obviously like a big figure.
Smooya and Steel were the best thing about this team.
They were.
Smooya was doing all the heavy lifting in terms of fragging, but Steel, funnily, a lot of the time was
he was
just
top fragging,
yeah. Yeah, so
whereas Voltage is just
to lose
okay
one
AWPer,
half of that duo
level,
is insane.
It's just okay.
Yeah.
Even at Flash, put it this way: if I even ranked the AWPers in Flashpoint, he wouldn't be top 5.
Yeah, I think that's a reasonable assessment. But is there something that can be done? Like maybe there's another roster move coming, you know, because like we talked about Cam a little bit. We were critical of him.
He's garbage.
Yeah, I don't think he's cut out to play at the level yet. He's only 21. You know, but when you consider the level of experience you can get out there for a 21-year-old kind of free agent, I mean, by contrast, right? Think how long Sick has been around and how he's meant to be the next big thing. Also, only 21, and since joining the Chaos roster, has actually looked decent. Like you can understand what Sick does in this team, and maybe in the absence of Smooya, Sick will step up and you know do something, but who knows? But I mean, you know, when you consider that Cam is the same age as Sick, and Sick's been in all these teams, you know, top level teams, been to lands, you know, Sick's one of the more probably is the second most experienced player after Steel now on this roster. So
no, that's another thing, by the way. Just as a little PSA to all the casters in the world, because Moses has been doing this with fucking Kooster, so it's the same thing. Kooster and Sick is when people still to this day in 2020 call them up and coming players. They've been up and coming for 4 years. These cunts are up and coming. These cunts are coming up longer than that fucking guy from the Happy Mondays in that hook in the fucking Gorillas track. That's such a ridiculous pull. I don't even know why I did it. I did it anyway. It's coming up. It's coming up. It's there. Like, there you know the
I'm
track.
coming up. Yeah, of course. Yeah,
they can't still be up and coming, can they? They've already had their chances. They didn't make it, and for good reason. So I agree. Like at this level, Sick's perfectly fine. In fact, if you steal, he's the sort of player you're hoping can be a player you can redeem, you know. But as far as some of the others go, they're not going to make it. Let's be real.
Duncan, it's happened. The Twitch chat, the morons.
Come on.
Let's get into the mind of a dribbling cunt for 5 minutes.
Imagine the mind.
The guy tweeted, why skip topics of teams like that? So I asked him what he meant, and he said that I feel like sometimes you guys focus a little bit too much on the tier 2 teams. I'd understand if it was a talk about Havu or Mad Lions, but Chaos is one of the more average teams in Flashpoint. So let me tell you, the gifted guy, why we're talking about this team. This is obviously a very alien concept to you. Havu haven't made a roster. Havu they. Mad Lions, we talked about them extensively last show when it was relevant to talk about. You see, we cover the news. So what we can't do is manufacture a news story. There's no reason to talk about them, is there? You stupid fucking cunt. Do you not even understand the concept of what a show like this is? Like, we talk about things that happen. We don't just sit and generally talk about teams. Hey, Duncan, what do you think about Havu? Yeah, I like him, mate. Yeah, what would that be? What would that be as a podcast? You fucking absolute prat. It's insane that people like you have gravitated towards more. This isn't for you. There's cartoons for you. Do you know what I mean? There's like 5-minute long YouTube videos of some guy barely stringing sentences together in jump cuts telling you what you should think about, you know, something that happened. Go watch that. This is a fucking 2-hour-long podcast where we break down everything that's happening in the scene, all the latest stories, and we give industry insight. This is not your type of content. You shouldn't be here. I'm disgusted that you found my work. It means I'm doing something wrong. It's not even your fault that you're fucking sub 80 IQ and have found me. It's not even your fault, you stupid bastard.
He's trying to sound like he's passionate at the end now. Like, you know what? The fact that I'm
it's actually my fault because I must be doing something to attract absolute dribblers like you to my content. So I apologize if I've given the impression that the work I do is in any way suitable to your intelligence and intellect, because it isn't. But please, will you just fuck off and don't come back? If you've ever supported me financially, let me know. I'll give you the money back. I don't want your tainted moron money. I don't want it. I don't give a fuck. Honestly, please.
After the show, Richard will have Sam hack your PC and delete all the Podbean MP3s off there.
Yeah, but like, please don't ever just don't ever come back.
It's like those people who go in the Twitch chat and they're like 20 minutes late for the show. So then they're just typing the whole time, like, talk about Astralis and Ace Tag. Talk about Astralis. And it's like, we did that already. Like, yeah, but I was near. So, like, it's not a jukebox, you know?
He's doubling down. He's doubling down. Having one mad lines were just examples due to how good they were. I understand the chaos in the teams with the news, but I don't believe all of them should be covered. Right. Again, we cover all of the news stories, right, that are happening, and we don't cover news stories that haven't happened and aren't happening. We don't just talk about teams out of the blue. You see how we just spent some time talking about Evil Geniuses? You know why? They just got rid of their coach. This really isn't a difficult concept to get, right? You're saying we shouldn't talk about chaos. Why not? They've made a roster change. Why should we ignore them because you like other teams better? That is not how you do a breakdown of what news to assimilate into a podcast that is meant to inform everybody about the things that are happening. I know you won't get any of these concepts. Honestly, I just stick to your coloring book. All right, stick to that. Don't come back to this chat. Don't follow anything I do. Just don't. It's not for you. Not everything is for everyone else. You know what I mean? There's loads of shit out there on the internet for you, but I am not one of them. So just fuck off. Don't come back. Just check my blood pressure. Good. Right. Let's move on. I just can't believe it, man. These people are out there. They walk among us, and everyone's okay with it. They walk among us, and they drive. They do all this like mad dangerous stuff. They serve you food. Oh, put poison in your food. Like, I can't deal with it. Like, I can't. Like, enough's enough. I'm sick of the morons. Like, I just can't deal with it. Like, why do they exist? How hard is it not to be a moron? Like, is it really so difficult? Did I miss something?
I like the way you've turned into that character that the guy who played Al Bundy was in Wayne's World, where he's like, why did they come to me to die? Why did they come to me? Remember that, like, diner owner guy? Again, by the way, all references will be from 1994.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, there will not be a reference from after 2001 ever on this show. I just don't understand it. Like, I just don't get it. Like, it's incredible that they just are out there and they think they should just be able to come and dictate shit to me. Like, fuck. Honestly. Right. Okay. COVID news. So let's talk a little bit about what's going on with the DreamHack Masters in case you missed this announcement. The DreamHack Masters, it was in jeopardy because of all of the stuff with coronavirus. People were wondering what was going to happen, and they have now decided that there's still going to be a DreamHack Masters, but like a lot of tournaments at the moment, it's going to be held online. Now, what's interesting, they've actually, as a result of this, bumped up the prize purse. So this actually contradicts a little bit of what I was talking about on the last pod episode, where we talked about MTG and their potential financial cutbacks they've had to make, for those that missed that story. So MTG have lost, they predict between 25 and 35% operationally for the first half of the year. So that means basically that we were expecting them to have to make cuts.
Well, they said that they were going to make a roughly $15 million of the cuts. Here's the thing, Richard. Shall I give you a speculation? Pure speculation as well. This has I have no connections in the industry. I'm literally just as an outsider, suspect it. Right? Because it does seem weird, I agree, that they pump the money up, especially where everyone has nowhere else to go anyway. Everyone's going to have to try and play this shit because it's all just online competition. We're all locked down. My suspicion is this. The reason the prize money is extra is I think they will actually cancel some of the different events later in the year. And so what they'll do is, adding 100k or 200k prize money is nothing, but running the cost of an event could be like $1 million. So you still will save the money. You save the 800k and you put that. I'm just speculating purely because, again, otherwise I can't really figure out how that can be congruent with what the parent company said.
Yeah, you're probably right. I think it's interesting. I mean, first of all, I want to say, like, I mean, the event now, it's online, so anything can happen. They got some good teams actually kind of associated with it. Yeah, and now that it's a $300,000 prize pool, it's weird, isn't it, that it's only gone up by $50,000, but when you start talking about 250,000 to 300,000, it's like a big jump up in everyone's mind. But they're out there. It is going to be held on the same dates that it was originally planned. So it's going to run from May 19th to June 14th. So it's quite a long competition. And it's going to cover, that's like with all the 4 regions that are going to be going on: Europe, North America, Asia, and Oceania. We still got some that includes the dates for the qualifiers, because there's still 2 European teams to qualify, 2 North American teams to qualify, 2 Asian teams to qualify, and 2 Oceanic teams to qualify. It's going to be interesting. It's suddenly expanded and become a much bigger tournament than it would have been had it just sort of been like this little, kind of throwaway, LAN event on the calendar. So I'm intrigued by this. I think actually the one thing I'll say just in general about the coronavirus kind of stuff is it's definitely added like an increased weight and significance to the online games. They do kind of feel like you're watching actual real LAN contests.
In lieu of a real LAN game,
results,
it feels like it's 75% there, doesn't it? Whereas normally for me, an online game is I care like 10% or something quite low,
Well, it's because, there's not a LAN next weekend, So it's like, I'm tuning into the Counter-Strike now. Like, I mean, I've probably watched more ESL Pro League now live than I would have done ordinarily. I would catch up on the games I wanted to see on the VODs or whatever. But I've been tuning in pretty religiously. The numbers have been good across the board.
It's been crazy, for everyone.
Yeah, everyone's had that spike. Another reason why the Overwatch
not even just from embedded.
Only get. That's
by the way, one thing I have to say is you must appreciate this. Like, I had a fucking sick slam on Ulrich when he tried to come back. Because here's the thing: in that scenario, by the way, I told you in the past, I know that ESL does it. I know the first one. Like, it's obvious that they do it. Everyone in the industry does it. But Ulrich tried to come out like, no, but you understand when we embed though, it doesn't actually get us that many viewers. So I just said, saying you're doing a shit job of cheating isn't usually considered an excuse. What kind of fucking comeback is that? It's like, I'm cheating, but not much. By the way, I will say, though, I'll put it all aside for 1 second and just say, I do actually feel really bad for DreamHack, because they already were the company that we've been telling you for the last 2 years is getting squeezed out. Like, they're not in the Flashpoint, EPL, and fucking Blast world where that's the battle. Even Blast themselves are on the outs at the moment in contrast to the others. So DreamHack were already getting squeezed anyway. Now think about this. DreamHack as a company, outside of their Masters and Open tournaments, come from a world where all their flagship events were based around this premise: get 10,000 people in one room. Well, I'm going to go ahead and guess that's probably, by definition, the worst possible business model you could have right now in the world, isn't it? Like, you're not allowed more than 10 people. That's a pretty big factor.
Listen, I don't want to have to do it, right? But we keep it real on the podcast. Obviously, you and Scott had an argument on Twitter about something sort of related to this.
I wouldn't even say it was an argument. I would say I was just openly insulted in an utterly outrageous way, and that's it. End of story.
Yeah, me again. Maybe it's the aging pragmatist in me. I listen, because I'll say this. I sort of agree in principle with what Scott's saying, that I do think the studio should be going remote. I know it's
fine. I don't have a problem with that. If someone, here's how you know it wasn't a compassionate tweet, Richard. Here's how you would present it if that was your concern, was that we could go online. You would say something similar to the first tweet. You'd say, guys, I'm beseeching you again. Like, this isn't necessary. Just do it online. Everyone's doing it right now. If you all agree, for example, there's no arms race between you. Similar tweet to what you said, so I'm framing it like nicely. You know what? Do it just to decrease the odds that anyone gets anything, and therefore, everyone can just go on with a click. Instead, what he did was he said that in the first tweet. Then the second tweet literally says that I can't remember the order of the tweets. There's like 3 of them. The other 2 tweets, though, make the following statements. I'm talking literally. I'm not exaggerating. They say that if anyone catches it, or even a family member, that basically he hopes that the views, and essentially as a result, the money was worth it. So basically, we are literally prostitutes, literally taking the lives of our loved ones and sacrificing them potentially in exchange for views and money. How could you get a more offensive statement right now in the world?
Yeah, no.
That's outrageous.
I think that's a classic Scott hyperbole. So I won't defend that, because I don't agree with that statement at all. And I think a sort of compassionate and empathetic view is, first of all, for all the talent that are like cooped up in LA right now, you guys aren't making the business decisions to be there. You can't just walk off site either. I'm sure nobody wants to be in LA at the best of the times. So the idea that you guys are having a fucking jolly up out there when you're essentially on lockdown, because you've just got to get to the end of the project, and you guys are at risk. You're in a high risk zone. I'm sure no one's having a good time about that, right? No one's feeling great about that. I don't, and again, I'm not going to ask you to commit to anything about whether or not they, you would rather not be there or whatever. But
this is something we actually addressed yesterday on the Flashpoint podcast. Can we do a Q&A and people can ask? Basically, internally, once all this stuff started going online, they sent us all an anonymous survey to ask the general group, are you comfortable still coming into the studio? Because in California, as part of the stay-at-home order, they exempted media companies. That we are not actually included in that, as long as we keep a skeleton crew and all maintain all this social distancing and all that bullshit. So what happened was, obviously, people like me said, yeah, I'm fine coming in. And the people who didn't, you will find, are not on the broadcast anymore, or they only appear making a Skybox video. So some people chose not to, and they did go off. Everyone else they're choosing responsibly if they want to come in or not. They think that all the precautions are being taken.
Yeah.
And as Mick even pointed out publicly on the Flashpoint podcast yesterday, there are bigger media companies than us who aren't even doing any of the stuff we're doing. Like some of them just have all the people in the room still.
Yeah, and listen, I'll add as well, and this is perhaps another aspect that maybe Scott wasn't thinking about, because listen, it's obviously a very, very dear topic to him because he lives with an elderly relative, right? So I can understand him being more conscientious about it, let's say. But equally as well, Michele, like, it's not like he's being like laissez-faire or cavalier about what's going on. I mean, he's being very proactive, by the way. That's why I know that media thing. He literally went out there and literally asked real media companies, big ones that are operating right now, what are you doing? What precautions are you taking? He got like a form that was like the standards. And we've done more at Flashpoint, as I said, than some of those companies have. Big media companies. Yeah. And so, I don't know. I think it's one of those things where it's like, when people, much like what I alluded to earlier, when like both people are right, but they maybe use like a terrible example and make their point, the example is incorrect and the hyperbole is incorrect. The use of language is imprecise.
No, he didn't try to talk it down, did he? He just doubled down straight after. I'll also add, by the way, for anyone who doesn't know,
you and Scott are both like that, though.
Yeah, but I'll just say one thing very quickly. For people who don't understand, this will literally cost me money. Do you think I was doing those videos for Do Not Peek Entertainment for free? No, they actually paid, I'll even say, by the way, a higher rate than most other people, because Scoots is in a position where he doesn't have to just pay the industry rate. So that was all great. So I'm literally giving up potentially thousands of dollars as a result of this. But it was the right thing to do. Because in this scenario, I'm not going to have someone publicly say that if my family member dies, I did it all for fucking views and money. And not least, by the way, when you're not an epidemiologist or whatever, you don't know anything about the way viruses spread in this scenario. And you absolutely cannot claim, sitting in a house in Arizona, to know what precautions we are taking in LA, and therefore suggest that and by the way, even the way it was phrased was almost as though he was like solicitously wanting from Schadenfreude someone in my family to die. I don't think that's fucking cool. So I did speak out against it. I don't care if the others don't. I'm not like that. I don't swallow my tongue to make a bit of money off some videos. If you say shit like that, fuck you. You're on your outs. It's done. See ya. Next topic. Not literally. Keep going on that one, obviously.
I'm just hoping that it's one of those temporary bumps in the road. It wouldn't be the first time, the three of us, like cantankerous old bastards, have sort of had a flare up. Not that I'm trying to be the marriage counselor. I mean, we're all fucking grown-ups people. Walk the path they want to walk, right? But, I think we live in fucking extreme times. I think quarantine has sent a lot of people fucking round the twist, and rightly so. It's such a huge change to what we do. And we're all learning as we go along. I mean, listen, I'll be honest with you, brother. I mean, I don't mind saying it. I was listening to supposedly credible and authoritative sources and repeating that information, and those credible and authoritative sources were completely wrong about the scale of this pandemic, about the lethality of this pandemic. And so therefore I've regurgitated information that isn't accurate. I don't feel particularly great about it. But it shows that we're learning as we go along. I don't think we faced this isn't like the swine flu, previously, and it's not like SARS either, which was pretty fucking dangerous. But we got that under control pretty quickly because it didn't have a super long incubation period, and it wasn't as actually viral as what we're dealing with now. So I think a lot of people are learning what's the appropriate way to deal with it. Are we outraged that the leader of the Netherlands was originally going to talk about we're just going to do herd immunity? Now Netherlands has, they're knocking on the door at the 10% fatality rate. People have had to get as much information quickly while there's active disinformation out there by certain global governments, and we've had to quickly assimilate what's the best course of action. And when you filter that down and understand that global governments, with all the information resources they have, probably aren't operating at the optimal level, and it's going to cost lives.
Aren't even honest in certain scenarios, as we've since found out. Here's what I would say about this whole topic. It's a broader point actually about the coronavirus, but it applies to this. If there's one thing I don't want to see right now, I don't claim to be an expert at all on anything to do with viruses or pandemics or anything like that, so I won't wade into those waters, but I will say this. If there's one thing I actually find on a moral level disgusting, it is anyone attempting to use this to virtue signal. Literally people's lives and deaths. You're using that. I'm not talking just about SirScoots. He did it very mildly. People basically trying to that's the key difference between this pandemic and everything in the past. In the past, if your family member died of some horrific illness, they didn't go, might be your fault then. Because why the fuck would you say that to someone whose family just died? You wouldn't do it. You would do the opposite. You would try to remove as much, because you would understand nobody has all the correct information. Nobody can make the optimal move at all times in this scenario. In fact, the information is even changing moment to moment. What you should have done yesterday suddenly isn't what you should do tomorrow. So why would you ever attach almost a moral teleology to what's going on? You're only trying to hurt people's feelings if you do that. And that isn't just about SirScoots. That's more the broader point. But that's
and I don't think Scott's intention is that, actually. I think, honestly, in a kind of weird...
I think he just overplayed his hand and tried to put too much pressure on.
Not even that. I think it's his clumsy way of saying, guys, to you guys, all the talent, it's I care about you guys. I don't want you and your families to be jeopardized because these companies are insisting on keeping the studios open. I think he just flubbed his lines a little bit. That's all, because it's obviously a topic that's dear to his heart. I'll always give Scott the benefit of the doubt. All the time I've known him, I've had many an argument and butted heads with him, but I've always known him to be a good person at his core. So. But yeah,
put it this way. I'll ask you a real question right now, Richard, because we're being real. Let's imagine I did a tweet where I said, I hear some information like we all did. Like we just said, everyone shared information that may or may not have been right, or it might be right today and it might be wrong tomorrow. I get some information that says now everyone should social distance from everyone. You can't even you have to be in a room on your own. And then I do a tweet, Scoots, don't go anywhere near your family, mate, or if they die, it's your fault. That would be a fucking outrage. By the way, imagine imagine Thorin on his Twitter account doing that tweet. What do you think the result would be?
I think you'd be criticised for it.
It'd be the end of the world, mate. It would be a meltdown from every... By the way, I would literally have other industry people even coming out literally casting me off.
Of course, yeah, they would all dogpile you. Yeah. But I mean, that's because of where you're positioned and where Scott's positioned. I mean, that is an apples and oranges comparison. When you could tweet the exact same thing and be treated differently for a variety of reasons, and it's not correct that is the case.
No, but I'm also pointing out I would never do something like that. That wouldn't even enter my brain at any point in time.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I've seen it. There is a weird thing going on a societal level with this. I mean, a lot of people are saying, "Oh, in the quarantine era, we're learning to be more empathetic," and I'm not getting that vibe at all.
I think it's the opposite, mate. I see people all the time. When people do, this is what I was talking about. When people do those tweets where they show out with their window, so a bunch of people in the street, they're doing the same thing. They're almost like, I hope they die. It's like, what the fuck is this?
That's outrageous as well.
Surely the compassion is, even if you think they're idiots, they don't know what they're doing. It's like, forgive them,
no,
but
they
know what they do.
Right. To give you an example, there was a video of people were throwing trash bags full of water on people that were ignoring curfew. Okay. And that was getting voted and applauded. And there was people in New York out on those fucking, fire escape railings, screaming at people oh, why are you outside? Why are you outside? it's like, listen, some people are going to have to go to work. Like, I mean, it's not optional. If their company is saying we're staying open and we expect you to be there, what are you going to do? Like, people, you know, we're already, as a result of this, going to head into a recession of perhaps even previously unseen proportions. The number of people in America alone filing for unemployment simultaneously dwarfs that of the subprime mortgage collapse in 2008, 2009. It is a bad time, and I think, trust me, I don't even know who would argue about this. You get to stay at home and you get paid. Who the fuck would turn that down? You know, but the reality is not everyone's going to have that option. Some businesses are going to be deemed essential. You know, we do the Flashpoint stream with Seaside. He's a frontline grocery store worker, and imagine using the term frontline to describe a fucking grocery store worker. But he's saying, like, you know, he's getting applauded when he's leaving the house because you got to put food on shelves because people need it, and he's risking it. I mean, literally risking his life to do this job that we wouldn't even think, you know, we wouldn't pay any mind to it. So, and the idea of him trudging to work his miserable wage slave job, and also risking his life to put fucking loaves of bread on a shelf in a store that he said on the stream doesn't even adequately provide him protection. They don't even have like hand sanitizer and stuff. It would be horrifying to me to think of somebody like on a catwalk, boo, stay inside, you fucking cunt. It's like, what am I doing? Like I'm doing, because we got to keep the lights on. You know, so I think, you know, my observations are this, that people are kind of like becoming insular. We know that this is like an unprecedented global pandemic situation. We know it's optimal to stay indoors, social distance, and wait for this whole thing to blow over, hopefully by the end of this month. But equally, some people aren't in that position where they get that luxury. And as you said, some people bigger than us, bigger than esports, are operating like we're operating in esports now and taking all the necessary precautions, you know, like look at all the late night TV talk show hosts. They're doing home broadcasting, but you still got to send a camera crew over there.
And by the way,
got to send a sound guy.
Here's what's different. When it's beef in the past over esports stuff, yeah, to us, esports is life and death, but it isn't in reality. And those things can rise for. Here's what people don't understand about the circumstances right now is all the people in esports using shit like this to fuck with people like me. It will never be forgiven. You will never be able to ask for forgiveness for what you have done. This is the line you cannot cross and come back from. So by all means, as a lot of you have done, continue to use a worldwide pandemic to try and score petty points on me. And by the way, simultaneously, keep angering the most well-funded fucking owners in esports, you morons who plan on working in esports for the next 20 years. I'm sure they'll all love what's happening. If any of you imagine, by the way, they think I'm the one out of control and shit with PR, they're not. I'm the fucking shit. I'm like that graphic everyone shows of that like Korean soldier taking all the arrows and fucking flashpoints, the guy sleeping in the bed behind me. That's the role I play, and I happily take it on because that's the I told you I'm built for war. But the difference is it's not all going to be fun and games when we're all at Esports Industry Awards in a couple of years and you all try and come up and give me that fake handshake you all like to do. I slap you in your bitch ass face. That's not specific to SirScoots there.
In a video game.
Yes,
yeah,
exactly. It's hyperbole, obviously.
Yeah.
I'm talking about other people, by the way, here. That's separate to the Scoots. Exactly.
Yeah, no, that's what I mean. I think we'll all be
the peanut gallery in esports who I'm talking about. The industry people who don't know me and they're just using this as a way to come in. You picked the wrong topic, mate. Do it all you like over me not liking Astralis or whether device is the MVP. That's just fun in games. This is some real shit.
Yeah, exactly.
For all you know, my family's have died. How would you know? How the fuck would you know?
Yeah, no, it's true. It's fucking true. People have got to fucking, like I say, you can't make every topic that's happening right now like some sort of battlefield to sort of take on your ideological opponents, but increasingly that is the norm, right? I mean, so even something like this is going to get twisted into, like you say, a point scoring exercise. And I agree, this isn't about Scott. That's not what Scott's doing. But I think there's plenty of other people that are using this. I've had people do it to me. You know, I've had some hate messages saying that you know, they hope I get the fucking Rona because I said that I didn't think it was going to be as bad as it was. Like, what do you want me to do? I only repeated what the CDC said. 80% of people get symptoms so mild they wouldn't even know they have it, and this has skewed the numbers slightly. Probably should I repeat that now? I don't know. I don't even know what the CDC's official line is today. So probably just best not to talk about it. I'll probably get Sam to cut this entire segment out of the fucking show, honestly, because it's just such a. I understand why it's a hot button topic. People's lives are at fucking stake. Maybe there's a point, by the way, where there's just some shit you should just admit is like you're out of your depth. Like, you know,
it's the reason I haven't made a single.
I'll be honest and admit that would definitely apply to me. You know, I've tried to talk about this on other podcasts I've been on, and I've talked about it on my stream. Maybe I should just admit, like, you know, listen, I'm not an I can't even say the fucking word.
It's a very difficult one.
Why can't I say that? Why can't I say that one?
Because it is really weird.
I didn't even. No, but I
Epidemiologist, I believe.
Epidemiologist. There it is. Yeah, thanks. I've got a mental block for that. That's weird. Anyway. I'm not one of those. I don't understand. You know, I don't have a great understanding of microbiology. I'm literally just regurgitating stuff I'm reading. And if I'm doing that, I should probably like maybe shut the fuck up. I don't know.
Are you ready for some irony, Richard? This is going to be the most peak irony in the history of esports. How many tweets have you seen about me about coronavirus?
Yeah, none probably.
Not a single one ever. Go check my account. So think about the irony of this. I actually understand I know nothing about this topic, so I'm not going to tweet about it. I'm not even going to address it. I'm going to stay in my esports lane. Why am I the only person in the entire esports field? So all of you who in every other thing in normal esports are like, why comment on that? Wow, this is the hill to die on, really. I'm the only one who's not doing it. Everyone else is out there doing what you said earlier, where they simultaneously virtue signal by being like, all the information I retweet without checking, because I'm not an epidemiologist either, is all correct. But anything you retweet is just fake news. Like, this is the world we've come to. I'm the fucking hero. Not really. I'm just joking about that part. It's not a hero for not tweeting, am I? I just realized there's no good could come of it in this scenario. There's no good, sadly.
So other news. Moving on. And Sam, broad and liberal timestamp supplied, please. I've got you covered, mate. I've got you covered. Let's talk about this other story that came out. Because I thought it would just be this is a bit of brevity before we start getting into viewer questions. Remember, they get to ask two this time around. NiKo did an AMA.
Really?
And I think, I think NiKo did an AMA, and somebody posted it to Reddit. I think it was.
Was this on Instagram or some shit?
Yeah, right, I think he did it on Insta.
Okay.
And anyway, so somebody asked him, "What do you think about the Krieg?" And we exist in a Krieg meta right now, which I'll tell you, if anything is going to be holding back viewership on CSGO, it's not going to be fucking Valorant. It's going to be the fucking refusal to fucking change how this gun works. But whatever. And they asked, what do you think about the Krieg? And he said it is OP as fuck. And the fact that you can use it as an AWP in most of the situations, and in some of them, it is even more powerful than the AWP. And the reason why it pisses me off the most, it is helping so much the players with worse aim. And I just hate the feeling that they wouldn't have killed me in some situations if there was no Krieg. Now, this is a quintessential NiKo answer. It's perfect in every fucking way. Because obviously it shows incredible levels of narcissism and ego that there is this one gun that, by the way, he can also use and has point blank in the past refused to use because he said it was going to get nerfed. So he could play on equal footing and therefore that would imply that those players aren't shit. But no, he is going all in on the idea that bad players use the Krieg. And you know what? We bang on NiKo a lot on this fucking show. I think he's spot on.
I agree with him.
I think it's 100% right. So I wanted to highlight it because, you know, we're all about fairness over here. So when you're right, you're right. And when you're fucking wrong, you're wrong. But like that is indeed 100% accurate an assessment of the gun right now, I think.
I'll give you a couple of reasons why I agree with NiKo, specifically and more generally about the Krieg. First of all, his general point about the Krieg, that you could use it like an AWP. I am sick and tired of CT players getting a Krieg and then being able, as he says, to hold a position with basically a better AWP, because you can move quickly between the shots and keep scoped in a way that with an AWP you can't. You have to re-scope out, come back out, they rush you. Like, I'll give you an example. Think of in your head of a clip of Magisk on CT side overpass at the Monster Tunnel, killing like 4 people coming through that tunnel. Now, Magisk has some of the best M4A4 spray to ever be seen in CSGO. But even he wouldn't get 4 people if he had to hold that down and just full auto it. But if he has the scope, he can just reposition, scope it, and he'll just kill them 2 bullets, 3 bullets, 3 bullets, 3 bullets, and they're just dead. That's better than an AWP. An AWP wouldn't even be able to hold the spot like that. So I not only agree with him on that angle, but then secondly, this is where it doesn't work. Like with the AUG one, I did think NiKo was that was sour grapes and he should have just learned it. The reason it's different with the Krieg is this. Since the Krieg is a T-sided weapon, since we all know the Krieg, first of all, its first bullet, even unscope, is bananas. People get killed by accident going around corners. Secondly, it is fucking amazing also, just at all ranges the AK is good at. So the problem is this. NiKo is no joke, one of the best players ever in CSGO at taking angles with an AK correctly as he goes around corners. He's literally like a genius at that. That's his strength. So that has essentially been nerfed by giving worse players a better gun for slightly less money. That means they don't have to do any of that shit. I can totally see why the guy's pissed off. This is outrageous.
But I mean, I think the thing is as well, like the price of this gun is fucking
It's way
bananas.
too cheap.
$3,000. So that works out. I think if you get a bomb plant on the first round, you just buy Krieg.
I'm going to make a video on this basically because this has been my pet peeve, but I've just noticed it more. The big problem is this. If you plant the bomb, as you said, and lose the T-side pistol, you can get one or two Kriegs. And then, even worse than that, God forbid the CTs that play against those Kriegs on the second round lose more than 2 people. They can't even have full buy next round. What is that?
Yeah.
You're punished for winning the CT pistol.
It's like every player we've been talking to while we've been showing the Flashpoint games and just in general, like behind the scenes, just general chit chat a lot. This gun has single-handedly moved us into a T-sided meta like nothing else.
Mate, people are winning nuke T rounds. People are winning the T half, and they're not Astralis, not prime Astralis from like 2 years ago. Motherfuckers are winning so many T rounds. It's ridiculous. Like even train sometimes becomes T-sided.
But like when I saw this update for Counter-Strike, there was like a little flash update, and they were addressing these performance issues we've had in the game lately with the stuttering for what was described as older Intel hardware. I was like, it's surely got to happen. Like I don't understand. Like what am I missing? Like there's a quick fix you can do right away, and that is you make this gun 4K. Or more, and you don't even need to fuck around with fire rates. You don't need to change ammunition capacity. You don't need to change accuracy. You don't need to change how the scope works or the scope speed. You don't need to touch the gun. You just got to make it fucking harder to buy earlier in the game. And so as a result, people, the T-sides can fucking snowball. Also, there has to be like a financial risk, right? Like if you spend, let's say it was similarly priced to an AWP and you were buying Kriegs every round, you lose a couple and put those superior weapons into the hands of the CTs. Suddenly you might get absolutely spanked, especially when you consider, I think the Krieg, as soon as it gets into CT hands, if you can hold on to those guns, that's fine. Now, a lot of people have been saying 3,750 in the chat. For like 4K is too much. I don't think so. I think this is a 4K gun. I think it, like I say, when you've got one of the top players in the world telling you it outperforms the AWP. I've lost track of how many times I have seen an AWP player scoped in and get peeked by someone with a Krieg and just bang the fuck out. It should that should be an unbelievable level of skill reserved purely for the AK, in my opinion. I think if you're doing that with like multiple guns in the game, you fundamentally broke.
It also goes against, by the way, Valve's own philosophy for the game, because the way they always described the AWP and the pistols, they always said like each gun's supposed to have its own scenario where it's like viable or it's the best, right? Well, the AWP isn't the best anymore, and yet it has the shittest kill reward and is super expensive and makes you semi-immobile.
Yeah,
the Krieg is literally a better gun.
Yeah, no, it is. It's not even up for debate. And listen, I just all they have to do is just change the price. Just put it up.
I agree. I don't even need a nerf. I just because it's the economical angle, like we said with the pistol thing, that's fucking the game.
Yeah, especially with the way the economy works now in Counter-Strike, right? Where you have catch-up mechanics in it. You can't have that plus the best gun in the game being closer in price to SMGs than fucking the top tier rifles that you use. Like it's just 3K is way too cheap. They need to bump it up by quite some distance, and like I said, I'd happily set it at 4K tomorrow. I think that would actually fix a lot. Also, as well, I'm just sort of sick of watching it now. I've been watching a lot more Counter-Strike during the quarantine, like a lot of people have. I'm sure it's fucking boring, man. A lot of it is boring. You see, like people not get punished. for like taking bad positions, bad firefights, because this one gun is constantly bailing them out. And I think there are a lot of players, by the way, that when the Krieg does get fucking nerfed, they've been enjoying it now. But like they're gonna get found out when you have to go back to using the real fucking guns again. Oh yeah, totally, 100%. Madness. But yeah, so I wanted to bring that up because I thought it was great to see NiKo. NiKo's always hated the Krieg, but for him to come out and just say now like this is just ridiculous. And I think somebody else tweeted something similar. Another player, it might have been Alige, which would be crazy if it was, if I remember rightly, because Alige obviously is one of the best. Yeah, he's one of the best players with this gun.
Yeah, fair play.
Yeah, you know.
And by the way, I do agree though with the original sentiment that just the way NiKo phrased it is so
it's perfect.
You couldn't even parody that. That's exactly how I would make like the Onion version of NiKo complain about something, you know.
Yeah, it was absolutely perfect. But please, Valve, like guys, I know you're going through a hell of a lot of shit right now. I know like you've just launched Alex and you're setting a new bar for VR and it looks great. It's been critically acclaimed and you're obviously on lockdown because of quarantine like every other games developer is right now. Please just fucking find a way to just remotely put the fucking money up on this gun and everyone's going to be happy. Just please, I beg you. Right, let's do the viewer questions then. We got a bunch of them coming in. For those who don't know, first time watching the podcast, because apparently my channel's been giving out Valorant drops while I've been streaming. Sorry guys, I don't know how the fuck that's happened. I'm not going to complain. Congrats to the 2 or 3 people that have tweeted at me that have got Valorant drops while watching BTN. Enjoy the game. Let me know what you think about it next week. Right, but for those who don't, for the $50 patrons and above, they get to ask a question every episode. It can be about anything, and it sort of the end of the show because we get to go off topic. So let's see what we've got. mikeFeedMe says, what are the main barriers to entry for new content creators? This is more a Thorin question, I would say. Do the barriers differ based on what kind of content you are making, journalism versus frag movies, for example, or are the challenges common across all different types of content?
The biggest problem with all content creation issues is like, first of all, I'll go with this example I often give. I didn't get advice from anyone. I didn't ask anyone for advice. I've actually never asked anyone almost for help even. What I do is if I want to do something, I try doing it. I do it on my own. I keep working. If it doesn't work, I try and improve. I figure out what I'm doing wrong. I look at what other successful people are doing, see if I can apply some of that to what I'm doing. And I keep going. And if I hadn't have made it, you'd have never heard of me. And I did make it and you have heard me. So sorry, some people don't make it through that sluice gate, as it were. Some people try and do all the things I've just said and it doesn't happen for them. So there's certainly no clear-cut path that you can definitely follow. It's not like trying to become like an executive of the company, like, right, do your business degree and then you do no, there's no clear path. Secondly, CSGO is actually one of the hardest games, in my opinion, to become a content creator in, because Reddit and CSGO is so unreceptive to certain types of content. Like even the Sean Gares of the world don't always get their super sick strap video upvoted to the front page. And that's fucking Sean Gares. So what chance are you going to have as Billy Nobody doing the same breakdown? Now, you might make it. A couple of them made it through. Elmer Poddy, Hawker to some degree. Some people get through. Some people who are really good don't. So the difference is, in a game like maybe League of Legends, right, I would say in one of those games, prove yourself as an amateur and maybe someone like me does a show with you or someone else gives you a leg up. That doesn't even necessarily work in CSGO, unfortunately. Even people who work I promote sometimes just die on their ass. So sadly, I haven't got a whole lot of advice. I would just say, like, basically my ultimate advice for esports in general, whether you're a player or a content creator, do it because you enjoy it. If you enjoy it and it's a challenge you find like invigorating and challenging in all the right ways and you think it'd be fun, do it. And then even if you fail, you'll have experienced something, you'll have learned something, but don't do it with like the goal that you need a specific success or you're going to get this or that, because actually everyone almost has to walk a different path. And it's really tough for me to give advice in that regard. Like, I think if I started today, I'd have to do it differently. I don't think I would make it the same way.
Yeah, so general observations from someone that's been doing it for a while. First things first, a lot of people fall into the trap of wanting to make opinion-based content right out the gate. Don't do that. Your opinion doesn't mean shit, and it wouldn't mean shit to the average person. It shouldn't mean shit to the average person because in their eyes, you're no further ahead than them. You have to earn a reputation before your opinion matters. And a lot of people like to open up, hey, I've written this opinion piece. Why the fuck would I give a fuck about your opinion? You know, different to a dude down the bar. So fuck off. I don't click on it. So that's the first thing. The next
basically
thing,
build credibility, right? That's the logic there.
Yeah, and you build credibility over a period of time of doing good work. And unfortunately, 99% of that good work won't find an audience, won't be seen. But what you will need is somebody. If you have that one breakout story, that might be enough to mean that, you know, next time 98% of people that would see it don't see it, but 2% do, and you grind that way. The other thing I would say, just because your content is good doesn't mean it's going to succeed. That's one of the fucking first universal rules you have to accept. And a lot of content creators burn themselves out very early on by going all in on content, super high production value. They spend, you know, fucking all this time writing a script. They bring in an editor. They do everything right. You know, it's beautifully lit, beautifully shot. It's got footage. It's well scripted, and it goes on YouTube and it gets 300 views, and no one gives. You know, what you need to do is you need to find the happy medium where you're not going to burn yourself out by making really high level production content and incredible content and doing it as often as you can. You need to find that sweet spot of it has to stay within your ability to produce it regularly, but also be good enough that it might catch an eye. You know, for example, there wasn't really a lot of people doing straight-to-camera editorials before Thorin created Thorin's Thoughts, and now I see a lot of people in esports spaces that
it's
have
the
like
go-to, isn't it now?
Yeah, they have like some titular, you know, like I think of Xantos incantations and shit like this, you know, and it's like, you know, Duncan sort of pioneered that to a certain degree. I've done them. We had Richard's rant on a PUBG broadcast I used. I think people, but again, just because your content's good doesn't mean it's going to find a home or find an audience. The next thing I would say is that equally we have evolved so far past the bedroom broadcasting that you probably do need to be a bit more than just some dickhead with a webcam. And this is what I mean by the sweet spot. Now, I'm just a dickhead with a webcam, but I've ticked some of the other boxes. So I'm okay to be a dickhead with a webcam. But if you're starting out as just a dickhead with a webcam, well, I don't know if you've seen the internet, but every dickhead has a webcam. So why are you any different? So you need to find something that's like a little quirk. You need to find something that's going to just set you out a little bit, be it the perspective, be it personality, which will lead me on to the next point, which is personality definitely goes a long fucking way. And some of y'all just ain't cut out for it. I mean, that's just also the brutal truth. Some of you are, you're as fucking bland as fucking, you know, rice cake, and you think you're gonna break out. Like you ain't got it. You ain't cut out to be entertainers. That don't mean you can't make content, but you got to focus on what you're good. You know, what I would suggest is if you're one of those people who have phenomenal concepts that you can't execute yourself because your personality is fucking dry, what you need to do is find somebody who has a bombastic personality, partner up. You be the Cyrano de Bergerac. You know, yeah, you know, you write the words, there's no shame in that. You know, there's no shame in that. You think those fucking comedians on late night talk show write their own material? No, it's a room of writers. They read it, they deliver it, but it's the writers that are doing the stuff that's making you laugh, and they get their credits at the end. And sure, they're not going to make millions of dollars in the contracts, but they're going to have a steady job and they're going to work in a space that they love. So that is what you should be doing. And trust me, people like me, the reason I don't produce more content now is because I don't have somebody that can write me a script. Like I've looked for those people. I don't have an animator that'll take one of my rants and animate it. I wish I fucking did. I'd be way more prolific. But I got too much other shit to do. I got my fingers in too many other pies. You know, I'm trying to balance streaming, writing, investigative work. You know, maybe coming back to doing events. A YouTube channel. It's hard to balance it all, and people like you will always be welcome. So if you're a video editor and you're not taking off yourself, reach out to a content creator you like, who you think you might vibe with, and just say, here's some of my work. Would you like me to do your videos for you? No shame.
By the way, a key part that Richard just hit there was don't just reach out to them. Like, here's another thing people do. It's the equivalent of what people always used to do when they would contact you, people even in the industry. I always tell people, don't ever send someone a message that says, hey. I ignore those, because guess what? I'm not up for a chat. If you say, hey, I'm a guy who actually wants to connect you for this reason, and here's a video, now I might do it. If it just says, hey, like, there's no. So, and similarly, yeah, don't just say, hey, I'd love to edit your videos. Say, hey, here's one of my videos I did recently. I'd love to collaborate with you. If they click it, the video will show them. It'll show them that they've got quality. You won't have to convince them.
And then just the one final thing. you cannot rely on the taste of the general public. This is something that, like, never let viewership be a metric for success, because it will drive you crazy, and it has driven lots of even top level content creators crazy. You know, where they become all about the numbers, and when they go from getting 20,000 viewers for some reason, and then they end up getting 1,000 viewers for some reason, the whole world collapses in on itself. But the point is, tastes change. You don't even necessarily have to move with them. This is how you should always think about it. I used to do stand-up, and I used to do poetry recitals on stage, and I used to be a singer in a band. So I've done a bit of stage work.
What was the band called?
I don't want to say in case anyone tracks it down.
All right, fair enough then. I thought maybe it had a funny name or something, you know.
It did. It was, yeah.
I'll ask you that more privately.
Yeah. I'll let you know back in the day. Anyway, because we were shit. This is the key thing. If I was proud of it, I'd just tell everybody. But no, we were shit. So anyway, you know, I've done a lot of work on stage, and let me tell you, if I got 100 people in a room, that's gangbusters. Louis C.K. just released a special, 1,400 people in attendance, right? So when you start thinking about only 1,400 people have looked at my content, I'm sad. 1,400 people in a room watching a top tier stand. You know, this is how you have to realign your perception. The numbers we get online digitally are insane because of the nature of commitment. But if you start realigning your perception and think about, you know, I'm a streamer and I've only got 50 viewers. I've done stand up to 20 people. They've been some of the best sets I ever did. You know, it's just how you have to think about it. Think about yourself as a performer and what it would mean to you to be in a room with that many people, you know, paying and listening to you, and if you can convert them into subs and fans, and then who else they might tell. Just don't think about you've got to be fucking Summit tomorrow, you know. Don't think about that, because it'll make you very depressed very quickly. It can never be the barometer for success. Right, anyway, next question. SunMaidRaisins, what instrument would you want to play if you had the mental capacity? I love how
at least he's made it funny. I like
me play drums. Like, I don't know. Like, I used to play instruments. I don't know if you've ever been musical, Duncan, but I think I've told this story before on stream. But basically, back when, you know, I was in some shit tier school in the Northeast, one of the worst schools in Britain, what they did is they came out and they tested the kids, because even back, you know, the way they divided you up into categories was kind of...
It means tested for music, not for mental retardation, like you're implying.
No, I was about who fucking knows what secret game they were running. I mean, maybe they were testing me. But no, what they did is they would put you would take all these means tested things all the time for aptitudes. You would just do a random maths test, and the people who came out on top, they got whisked away to a secret room because they realized, like, these kids might actually go to Oxford and Cambridge one day. The rest can just fucking, you know, go do woodwork or whatever. There was, when I went to school, there was still that mindset of pigeonholing people. And anyway, I did a music aptitude and probably a mental retardation test, as they were called back then. And basically they said, oh, you've got musical aptitude. I couldn't understand how this wasn't even like just a thing everybody could do, but like being able to count in time and stuff like this. Apparently it eludes some people, you know, so I had no idea. And they said, well done, Richard, you've been successful. We will give you an instrument to play. And I was like, holy fucking shit, this is cool. I really like the Muppets. You know, can I play the drums? I want to be like Animal, right? And then when, yeah, you can definitely play the drums. Comes the first fucking day of all the aptituders have been put in a room, and we're all given a violin. Because that's clearly all they had just lying around, a bunch of shitty violins. Oh, these ain't fucking drums. I'm not a musical genius, but I know what drums look like. And they were like, no, everyone's playing violin. You'll get to play another instrument at some point. So I played violin for 2 years, desperately hoping for drums. And I went to the music teacher and I said, I want an upgrade to something cooler, because all the guys have dropped out. It's me, just the girls. Violin's not a cool instrument at all. Like, even if I call it the fiddle, it's not cool. So what can I have? And they said, well, there's no drums. We can't afford a full drum, but we do have a battered or old alto saxophone lying around. And I was like, fucking saxophone? This is a fucking shit,
I love The Simpsons.
No, yeah, Bleeding Gums Murphy was a thing. But not even that. Just think about everything. Think about fucking that George Michael song. It's cool as fuck. You're like,
and
okay,
Baker
it's definitely
Street.
cooler than
Everyone loves a
violin.
bit of that.
Street,
Yeah.
Sick.
And don't forget Sexy Sax Guy, which wasn't even a thing back then. But anyway,
could have been you.
So I was like, it could have been, it wasn't. But anyway, so I said I'll have the sax. And it turns out they're really fucking hard to play, really fucking hard. And I got to be the cool kid who played saxophone for about a week. And then when I realized I couldn't even make a sound out of this motherfucking thing, you have to like put it in your mouth and like you've got to like you can't just blow in him, man. Why have they designed him like that?
This is the most out of context clipped section of all time.
I don't even give a fuck. I've told you I've given up. So anyway,
I actually thought of the most inappropriate joke ever as well. There, I was the joke will be this. Anyway, the first week, the guy's just fucking my face. I'm like, what are you doing? He goes, I thought you requested sex. Like, oh, sex.
Reasonable. Don't even know why that's a joke. But yeah, you have to put your teeth, you have to bite down on the thing, and it's got a reed in it, a bit of wood. And you sort of put your tongue on that, and you push your lips up to put it in, and then you have to like purse your lips really stupid. It's fucking hard as fuck, mate. It's unbelievable. So I just bailed on that and played guitar very badly until my fingers got cut. So now I just don't play anything. The sad end to a musical career. But
is the one you would choose to play if you could?
I don't know, mate. You can't go wrong with guitar, can you? You can do everything. Then a piano. Piano's a great, solid foundational instrument. I wish I could play that. I tried it. I had one of them books. It's easy to play Beatles. It's fucking not. Straight lies. Straight lies. Should have been done under the Trade Descriptions Act. Not easy at all. What about you? Musical in any way?
I'm not really a very musical person. I also just never attempted it. Like I was just always with video games and computers and shit. So the only time I ever attempted was for a couple of years I used to play bass guitar because it's so easy and I liked a lot of like punk music and stuff, so it was very easy to play. But I never actually attempted to be good. Like I never could play any fucking like Rage Against the Machine or anything good. So all I would say is I would actually agree with you. I think piano is probably the best instrument, not least because not only are there a million sick songs that sound amazing on piano, but if you notice, every song that isn't a piano song sounds great on the piano as well. If you take like a fucking rock song and play it on there, sounds awesome. So I think it's just like it's pretty much just the universal one that'd be sick to play, wouldn't it?
Next question from SunMaidRaisins. Did you ever follow competitive Team Fortress 2? If so, what CS player has the ego but successful player like Banny? Well, so first of all, I did follow it, but way back when it first started out, like when they were still trying to make it 8v8 or something. I was there at the start, and I did cover it a lot. But like has often happened in my career, I pissed off a lot of the TF2 guys because what they did was we had an I series, which is the UK LAN run by Multiplay, where they had like 80 teams had signed up or something, and like Counter-Strike that time had like about the same or less. And they were going, yeah, look at this. And then the next one, they had like 6 teams signed up, right? So needless to say, being an antagonistic cunt. Yeah, pissed them all off. And there was a pro player whose name I can't even remember, but a high level one. I think he's in Overwatch. And he said, like, if you go to the next I series, I will walk up to you and punch you in the face for all the negative things you've said about Team Fortress. Because they were just another hillbilly fan base, just lunatics, like every other fan. It was like a proto fandom in that sense. They were really insecure about their game because Valve weren't treating it right, and it was dying. The competitive scene was dying. So yeah, it was another one of those ones where me going, ha, look at you dickheads, why are you obsessed with that game for? That just pissed everybody off to the point where that was some of the original death threats. In fact, they were the first people to have my Wikipedia page took down. They mass spammed it.
The fact that they were the first people, not like...
Yeah. Oh, it's happened. I don't even know if I'm on Wikipedia anymore. I can't even tell me. I don't even keep up with it. It's nothing to do with me. But what happened was, I wrote like some article where I like one of my columns where I was just saying, I did like a whole bit about like the TF2 fan base and just how fucking stupid they all are. And then some of the people I think that used to work over at a website called Vanilla TF2, they sort of like got riled up about it. And a bunch of people went and spammed Wikipedia, basically saying this guy isn't a real human being. He's not a real person. So they took down my Wikipedia page, and they were all like celebrating. Like Twitter was a new thing back then. You know, it was like 2010 or whatever. So it was like gangland. You know, people said all sorts But yeah, so I mean, I did follow it, but I can't even remember this banny dude, nor do I care. It was one of those scenes where it was like I had a team in my org that finished. We were undefeated online, and we finished third at the first ever cash LAN, which was like I-32 or something, first ever cash prize LAN for TF2. And then slowly but surely, I got less and less interested in it. We wrote about it on CADRED, but it was never a scene I really connected with. Although I did have a lot of friends that were involved in it, and I know some of the guys that moved on to Overwatch from it. Not really my thing, and I'm guessing not your thing either, Duncan.
I don't know anything about Team
I was going to say, I don't
Fortress.
recall you ever talking about it.
Last time I ever played Team Fortress, it was literally the one in fucking Quake World about 20 years ago, or maybe Team Fortress Classic briefly. I've never followed the competitive scene.
Next question, Buttpounder420. If you had to get an anime body pillow of one CS player, who would it be? It can be someone from 1.6 Source or CSGO.
Mine would be obvious, and it's not Existence. It's obviously Device, isn't it? First of all, he's the best looking CS player. Secondly, he's won the most. So I'd be a trophy wife to the body pillow. Obviously, he's got the most majors, got a lot of money.
That's a bit highly subjective, isn't it?
Who would you say is the best, and who do you fancy?
Which player do you want to fucking turf out? I'm trying to think, mate. It's fucking hard, isn't it?
Sean Gare's got to be up there, surely.
Oh yeah, but I mean,
but he's
hard to say because I'm actually
he's been all over town, hasn't he?
Sean Gares. I'll just wait for the chat. This is one of these exercises the Wisdom of Crowns will do.
I tell you what, Richard, I want to corroborate this with you and see if you agree. Right? There's one which the person himself even said this. Is why I'm going to give this example. There's one person who always they always say he's the best looking, but it's actually a trick of the camera, and he even himself says that. It's Fifth Lauren. Right on camera, for some reason, Fifth Lauren is insanely photogenic. In real life, he's just like an all right. He's like vaguely good looking Swedish. He's not a model in real life.
Plus, keep in mind he's from Sweden, so he's probably not even an 8 by Swedish standards.
And I agree, because I've been at events with him, and then when I see the picture, I'm like, where the fuck was that guy? He wasn't on stage with us.
Yeah, this is a hard one for me. I don't know, dudes. I'm looking at some of these answers here. I'm not really feeling like.
Who are they suggesting? Shocks. Yeah. Shocks is more like the teenage girl's choice.
Yeah, I don't know, dude.
I
might have to go the other way and you just get a big one.
Pasha.
Boo Mitch.
Yeah.
Boo Mitch. You'll sing sweet nothings to you when you go.
And you'll have a massive body pillow.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm thinking. Like, get a big one, like a fucking Dosia body pillow or something.
That would be good for the meme, right? He wouldn't even.
I'm amazed they haven't made one. Someone linked me to something the other day on my fucking YouTube channel where it was basically, it was like a dude was sat on a sofa. It was like one of these. I think it was for the Mustang announcement. There was a dude sat on a sofa with like next to a girl, a woman, I should say, and he basically was like sat there like with shades on and a jacket, and then Dosia walks in with the most outrageous, like I don't even know what he's doing. It's like the rest of him ain't getting bigger, but his pot belly is just fucking, it's ridiculous. And he's still got that medieval peasant haircut, like it's outrageous. Mate, he does. He looks like a fucking extra from The Witcher 3. Like I can't take it, see, like an NPC, like like just some fucking.
Oh no, mate, he does literally look like if you actually could speak Russian, you'd find out why he was so popular, because obviously he'd pop out that little mutant quavo out of his fucking belly, like
my mind, you're free your mind. Anyway, and so he's got a jacket on and a t-shirt, but the belly is outrageous so far. And what the guy's got a sandwich in his hand, and he takes the sandwich off the dude and pushes him away and sits down next to the woman. The woman puts her arm around him and he just has a bite in his sandwich. It's just so insane. Like, so I'll just take the Dosia body pillow. You get twice the body pillow for the same price. Fuck it. I'm a frugal dude. But anyway, go track that video down, guys. It's mental. Next question from Jdubs. There are 5 Flashpoint partner orgs outside HLTV's current top 20. MIBR, Contact, Cloud9, Dignitas, and Envy. Assuming they plan to improve and avoid the monthly financial penalties, what are some realistic roster moves you could foresee in the future for some of those teams?
By the way, just as a quick note as we begin, even though this is a hypothetical exercise, I actually suspect, there's been no official word on it yet, because at the moment we don't know if we'll be playing lands in a month or there'll be no lands for 6 months. I actually suspect they will probably suspend those fines, because how can you really punish a team when there's no chance to prove yourself and get into the top rankings? Like, so I personally suspect, unfortunately, that element won't be implemented right now. But obviously, it's hypothetical, so we can use it for now.
Yeah, listen, I think a lot of people have like tunneled in on that like statement and like really overblown it quite a bit. Because obviously, it's like you say, it's probably not something that's going to be implemented now, especially with everything that's been going on.
I mean, I would have liked it to, but it's just unreasonable to say to a team who's like 25th, like, well, why haven't you done anything to get upgraded in the rank? It's like, what could I do? There's no tournaments.
Yeah, but also especially in the fucking current economic
It's
climate.
also
as well.
not very compassionate. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I'm just gonna fucking rinse you of 100 grand. What's that? You already laying people off? Yeah. So no, I dig it. I think out of all of those teams, like I don't even know. Oh, it has reminded me this question of a topic I wanted to talk about on the fucking show. So let's just start with MIBR. As if they cried again over ESL. Did you see that?
Mate, the reason I love that is, remember, you know what? I don't give a fuck. Nobody,
ready, Sam.
Despite the fact they're a founding team, nobody in Flashpoint knew or agreed with them going over to join ESL Pro League, which they did just because it went online. In doing so, essentially invalidating the entire premise of why Flashpoint fucking exists. So the idea these two-faced turncoat motherfuckers are then going to cry about ESL Pro League as they're getting the shit stomped in it. Cry me a fucking river. Yeah. Also, the other thing is this, right? The thing they cried about was pathetic. It was a very, very mild, fairly obvious, not even that great joke, but, you know, a throwaway joke. Remember, the same motherfuckers who literally in Portuguese say that thing like, vai te morrer or whatever, which means that you will die. And they go, it is just banter. Why do you take the internet so seriously? Not like us Brazilians. Then you make a tiny little joke about them. They're crying their fucking eyes out. Well, you know what, boys? Do you want to know the way you could have avoided people making jokes about you in the ESL Pro League? Don't play in the ESL Pro League, daft cunt.
Well, I was going to say that it was such a mild joke they got upset about.
Exactly. I clicked it thinking this is going to be something heinous.
Yeah.
It wasn't even a
What was it?
nasty
Like,
joke.
Mayon is Portuguese for we
as
miss
Argentinian.
Oh, Argentinian for, right, okay.
I think that's what he said.
It's like, what the fuck are you even talking about?
Just an okay throwaway joke, innit?
Yeah, but also as well, like you do realize that one of the reasons that that league is like sort of liked and enjoyed, and it's going to be the same with Flashpoint as well. One of the things that we do differently to every other esport, you know, we've got OWL fining someone for typing the word big dick in all chat. And we fucking, you know, we do have memes and we do make fun of people and we do say if a player plays bad. And of all the people who should know about this, you would think Taco would have his fucking head switched on. But of course, it's all the time with these guys. It's always got to be a conspiracy. It's always got to be that people are picking on them. It's always got to be that it's unfair. It's always got to, why you no respect us? Like, fucking listen up. You earn your fucking respect. Maybe win a fucking series and then we'll have a chit chat, mate. You know what I mean? Maybe win a fucking series. I know you've been killing it in Flashpoint. Well done, eh? Big round of applause. Fucking hell. Also, as well, the implication that you wouldn't enjoy having a player called Zera's caliber back now is.
I know.
Come on. I know. Fuck off. It's just pathetic. It's always them crying about it. But anyway, so roster moves. I don't know. MIBR's toast. I think you have to get rid of Fallen and just completely rebuild. I think the success they're having in Flashpoint is delaying something that needs to happen. So I think that team just has to be broken apart. It just has to be atomized. Cloud9, come on. That's this experiment has failed. They've got a couple of good players. I think you can definitely build around, but I expect that we're going to see some players in free agency that could go there. I think, or maybe Cloud9 are they ready to make a commitment to excellence again? We know that there are going to be roster changes coming,
and they're waiting with the big box and the fucking open checkbook. Believe me,
exactly. So. If they are ready to make a commitment to excellence is not even worth speculating about. They just have to be primed that when the liquid moves happen and when the EG moves happen, you take the one or two players you think you got now that can hang with those boys, and you go and get those boys and you fucking build something. So again, I couldn't tell you what it's gonna be, But I know right now I doubt Cloud9 are happy with the way things are going. Dignitas has been the surprise. I expected them still to do better in Flashpoint.
They didn't even make the playoffs.
Yeah, than even with Guardian as a stand-in. I know Holzuk is such a big player for them to lose, but like we memed on it saying it was the retirement and all that bullshit, and that they weren't going to do much in the league. But that was contingent on the idea Astralis might be in there and stuff like that.
Exactly.
These teams, Dignitas are by far and away the most experienced team in that roster. And the mad thing is, Get Right's playing good again. Forest is still Forest. They've looked really disjointed and kind of out of it tactically. So I don't know. I mean, I doubt very much that they would even consider a roster change off the back of not making the playoffs at Flashpoint. But they probably
somewhat goes against the premise of making the team if you just cut someone immediately.
Yeah,
and you can't do all your videos. Like a lot of people used to say we were washed up. By the way, you are washed up. Get the fuck out. Like, you can't do that, can you?
Yeah, no. And listen, the obviously they are using a stand-in.
Yes.
The stand-in was a highly experienced player that actually played better in Dignitas than he played in Na'Vi. Caliber of opposition all concerned. So, yes, I don't know. I mean, at the end of the day, I know that it would be super unfair to implement the financial penalties, and I think all of those rosters could make roster changes, but I think we're about to enter into a very interesting time in Counter-Strike, so it's not even worth jumping the gun, because some moves that are implausible today are not going to be implausible in about 2 months' time, I'll tell you that.
And the good news is that all those orgs you just listed have big-time money.
Yeah,
and so if those moves come on the horizon, and they're going to, it's just we don't know who it will be and in what order. Those people are primed to make big moves, and so as much as they might this is where actually PR sort of fucks even the fans of teams, because when they hear all that PR, like we're a family, we love our players, we're developing them, we believe in them, they actually start to believe all that shit and think, well, they'd never upgrade the class, mate. I'll tell you right now, I don't care how much Cloud9 loves all those players. If they could get like fucking the entire Team Liquid lineup tomorrow, they would go, love you, here's your fucking golden handshake, now get the fuck out. Obviously, they'd take that in a heartbeat. They wouldn't even think about it, because who would?
Another question from Jdubs: with coronavirus removing events faster than Tarek can remove his in-game leaders and coaches, 2020 looks to be the worst year for Counter-Strike in a long time.
Why has he used that reference?
I don't know.
It's good.
When was the last year that it was this bad? Listen, guys, I think anyone that's pessimistic about Counter-Strike in 2020, even with the specter of coronavirus like hovering over the scene, I don't think you're paying attention. We are breaking records. We are breaking player records.
We're going to bounce back so hard. It's going to be amazing.
Yeah,
I guarantee.
and we are the ones seen. But like I said, this is the thing you have to consider. At a time when everyone's game is getting more players and everyone's viewership is going up, things like the Overwatch League is still in. What does that fucking tell you? And I know enough about Counter-Strike and how good a game it is and how good a scene we got, that these people who are coming over to see what the fuss is about, because they got fuck all better to do, they're going to stick around, guys. They're like, I've talked about it many times. The Counter-Strike phenomenon is it gets under your skin. It's a game like no other. You want to come back. You don't know why sometimes, but you always do. So I don't think it's a bad time at all. Let's look at the reality. Despite there being a global pandemic on, we have 3 leagues still running. We're pivoted to online, getting viewership records. We have the DreamHack Masters just announced, going to be online, increased the price and expanded the scope of the tournament. It's going to run for longer now. We have lands coming, perhaps as early as June and July, certainly August and September, they're queued up. And I have to believe, even in the most pessimistic outlook, we have to be in a better place by July and August. We have. That's a societal thing. It's got nothing to do with esports.
I'll even throw in, Richard, I actually think, because as you mentioned, we're one of the few industries that while we've been affected with having no lands, we're still continuing the competition. The key thing to me is this. This actually, in my opinion, has just hit the acceleration button on the societal change from the traditional sports to esports. You even saw literally fucking, as I mentioned on the last episode, mate, Red Eye was racing against fucking Formula 1 races in a virtual world. Like, this is not the 2000s anymore. Like, this actually might be what makes esports go to the next level.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like I said, no one's reveling in that because of the circumstances it's took. But what we found is in a time where sports events have been cancelled, more people that wouldn't have considered esports as a viable alternative have given it a chance. We've been buoyed by the fact that, you know, sports stars are aware of esports and they like to play video games and they like to compete because they're competitors by nature. And all of a sudden, we've had a blurring of the lines like we've never had before in sports and esports culture. We come out of this in a better place. I just hope we come out of it quickly and safely. And that's it. You know, and I think Counter-Strike isn't in a bad place. You want to talk about the subprime mortgage collapse in 2008, 2009. I know I just said we're going to enter into a worse recession, according to economists. But the difference was in 2008, 2009, we weren't legit. We were being propped up.
We also didn't have streaming back then. You know, there was loads of reasons we couldn't.
Exactly. Streaming wasn't there. YouTube was a twinkle. There wasn't even the way to monetize. It was all literally a promise and a kiss from a total stranger that we were maybe going to get somewhere. And a lot of people, if I'm being honest, a lot of people that were steering the ship, they didn't believe. They weren't true believers like me or Duncan. We're the truth. Like, we're not evangelicals because we call out the flaws, right? But we also believe in its inherent success if all the criteria are met. And that has been unwavering for 20 years, you understand? It's the only way you can stay sane and do what we do. The people that were steering the ship in 2008 and 2009, they didn't believe. They believed that a boat had come in and they were going to loot it and put an extension on their house and buy a Ferrari and then fuck off. That's what they wanted, and that's what they believed. And then the global collapse happened. And you found out who was fucking real and who fucking wasn't when there wasn't any marketing money, because that was the first thing to get cut. When people couldn't even be associated as esports. They went, and they didn't fucking look back, right? They went and started another business, something that was recession-proof, payday loans. Those motherfuckers were never easy. They were profiteers, right? I have been around the CPL bubble before it. I caught the tail end of that. So I've seen it. I know what a wasteland looks like. This ain't 100%. So we are going to be good. We're golden. We're still bringing in sponsors at a time with all this global uncertainty. New sponsors, big sponsors. People know this is where you need to be more now than ever with the pandemic situation. Right. Let's move on to the next question. Jyse, 2020 looked to be our spiciest year, but it seems we might be denied any meaningful LAN games. Did we go from spiciest to worst in terms of the competitive play? Is this now the ultimate edging of Simple's rise to the major winner? It's tough that we're not going to get a major in May, at the end of May when it was scheduled for. That's a blow to Simple and the Na'Vi prospect. But equally, there is a potential here that because of all of the online components that are going to be going on in a lot of these contests, and some contests are just outright going to be played online, that there's going to be some teams winning tournaments in 2020 that wouldn't have had a chance, wouldn't have had a sniff.
I'll bet you that it'll happen. From watching Flashpoint, which is obviously at a lower level, here's the thing. I've seen teams like Havu play on LAN before Flashpoint. They weren't the team they are now. Like, making people only play these extended leagues, and in theory, like in that case, they're in the same room or whatever, but, you know, like it's online. It has leveled the playing field. Like, you'll see some teams rise up you never saw before.
Yeah, and I think basically will I mean, that makes the argument that it's more competitive. I mean, so I think it's not ideal. It's tough on Simple. He's getting blue balled again, but it's definitely it's going to be an interesting year. And remember, in the second half of the year, you have to believe we're going to come out of this. You go crazy, right? So I think we get back to normal, hopefully in time for the major to come rolling around. And keep in mind, with all of the re-qualifying that's going to go on, I think we could even get a way better fucking major than the one we would have had. Because we're going to get, now that you have to sort of essentially prove that you belong, that you're there, instead of this fucked up, shitty invite system, there's going to be a lot of dead wood gets cut. And that tournament finally might be on a par with something like an ESL 1 Cologne, where all the top teams are present. We haven't been able to say that about a major for a while because of the system.
And can you imagine the hype if we had if the first LAN was the major? Holy shit! Everyone would tune into that. It'll break all the records, I guarantee.
Oh yeah, it's already primed to do it, in my opinion. Record number of players. It's in Brazil. Legendary teams out there. Like, oh yeah, fuck yeah. So if that does become the first actual LAN, boom, forget about it. Anyway, the other question from Jyse: is Smooya the first Valorant pro player likely to be banned? Well, listen, I know he's in a bad spot right now. I don't think his spot is so bad he has to go over to a non-existent esports scene just yet.
No, I don't think he should. He still has a future in CS. Listen, remember, he is still young. And you know what? Yeah. As much as Smooya can be a very obnoxious person, I wouldn't say he has like good charisma or anything, but I've actually started to see him somewhat polish the edges off and become a little bit more presentable on camera. So I could see him actually turning the corner one day, not as drastic as Simple, but being actually like a vaguely loved community figure if he plays his hand right. So I'd stick with it if I were him. Don't go to fucking Valorant.
Yeah. Next question, Jerky's Minion. Since the mainstream media keeps saying we aren't sports, now that coronavirus has cancelled all the sports around the world and we're still kicking about, will they redact that statement? I mean, I think what you'll probably see is now, this is my prediction based on how I understand how media works, they are going to pivot to, we always like to see sports thing. Haha, isn't it great that it's doing so well right now?
Jimmy here in the office used to play a lot of PUBG back in the... That's what they'll do. You're absolutely right. That's what they do all the time. They're never wrong, are they?
What you have to remember about the media, I mean, that's the first key thing that Duncan said there. The media can never be wrong, not even retroactively when all the facts are proven wrong. For example, there has been a thing on social media where they are disputing, they're saying Fox News wasn't critical enough about the coronavirus, wasn't critical about China, they downplayed the dangers. And then you go and you look into it and you see examples of, Vox, BuzzFeed, all CNN. It's just the flu. You see them literally running that headline. Anything they accuse somebody else of, they're always guilty of themselves. It's the ultimate act of sort of, obfuscation. So the media can never be wrong. They can never be wrong. Journalists are the most brave people. Journalists are getting laid off. You'll see 20 think pieces. We need journalists now more than ever in quarantine. Actually, as a journalist, I'm deeming you non-essential. Sorry, guys. So you'll see this a lot. They can never be wrong. But here's the other thing. They are now, because of the business models they have built in digital media and for media companies in general, they are like flies on fucking shit every time there is something vaguely popular. They don't know how to operate any other way now after 2 decades, 3 decades of clicks. That drives the industry forward. Get me views, get me numbers. So whenever anything pops up, they'll go there and they'll just walk in like, how do you do, fellow kids? We were here all along. Don't you understand? They were here all along and they loved us all along. They've been banging on us and saying that we breed school shooters, that we fucking, we're all addicts, that,
misogynists, all that shit.
Yeah, misogynists. We encourage high school dropout rates. You fucking, right? I mean, just think about that story recently and how absurd the premise is that in Alabama, they were banning school kids from playing Fortnite because it would encourage shooting, but they don't want to stop them having guns, of course. So, go figure, right? But whatever. That's all an aside. But the media will just pivot to, hey, we always love this esports thing for as long as it's popular, as long as they can get clicks. And what you have an obligation to do as a responsible person is you must not go and consume their content. You mustn't let them do it to you. They don't care about you. They will call you a cunt in a year if it's popular to do so. They are only here because right now we're hot shit. And that's why I said, you let the right one, and it ain't them. It ain't never the mainstream media. They ain't no fucking friends of ours. I've turned down countless interviews with the BBC, even though I know it would help my profile. I got asked to do a Netflix documentary. I've vetted the guys and made sure they were legit. Think about the vanity most people approach that with. Oh, what? Gonna be on TV? I don't give a fuck. Been there, done that. Worked on a show that got nominated for Emmys. I did it, but am I gonna sell out this right here? No fuck. Been in this game way too long. I don't want anyone to chip away at the foundation media. I said they're like flies on shit. It's not even like that. They're like fucking some hybrid of fucking shit-eating flies and termites because they eat everything they touch from the inside out. Can't even have serious political conversations. Can't even be like a conservative and a fucking, you know, socialist, or like just friends with differences. There must be permanent war because that's what gets you to click on their fucking garbage fucking that they just churn out every day. Reject them utterly when they're gonna do. Alice the Alchemist. Hey, Rich and Thorin. Versus Na'Vi Rio final. How much of a kick in the gut would it be for both of you that you would only get to see either one of Simple or win the major? I'll be honest. If I had to choose between one of the most kind of underrated by his teammates in-game leaders of all time winning the major and giving the finger to FaZe, or Simple, the GOAT player, who's achieved the highest level we've ever seen in CSGO, maybe go his entire career without winning a major, I think I'll lean towards Karrigan. I think I'd rather have him win.
Ooh, because actually I come down the opposite. I have a similar feeling.
No, but I knew when I said it you would. Yeah.
No, but the reason why is this, is even though in terms of like where they're at in their careers, Karrigan needs this major way more than Simple does. And Karrigan's had a lot of chances, including obviously literally one round away, and it didn't happen for him. So while I love Karrigan, I would love him to win it in his career. The problem I have is this. If I have a choice between this, Karrigan never wins a major and Simple never wins a major, I think it's more of a travesty that Simple doesn't, because he is the GOAT. And unlike Karrigan, he didn't have loads of chances. Like when he made those major finals with Team Liquid and Na'Vi, they had no business being in those finals. Like they weren't supposed to win. It's not like he was like Karrigan with FaZe or some of the TSM teams, where actually he was an odds-on favourite or like the second best team in the tournament. So I just feel like if Karrigan didn't win a major, I could go, yeah, sucks. But, you know, there's reasons that make sense for that. If Simple doesn't win it and he only really had this one team, because I don't know what's going to happen in the future, maybe this is the only team he ever has that could really do it, I think that would be an absolute travesty. Not least then because there will be some idiots who will start to redact the premise that he could be the GOAT. It'll be like some Dan Marino shit where it's like, but how could he be if he didn't win them? It's like, so I don't want to live in that world. Let's just get Simple as major. As much as I like Karrigan, I just think for historical reasons, it's more important that Simple wins one.
So let me tell you why I'd come down on the other side. Because I think captains and in-game leaders are so sort of like forgotten about in their equation, you know, of like what makes a great Counter-Strike team. But GOAT players, even if they win nothing, are always remembered and loved and revered. You don't think about the captains of the teams that didn't win. You think about the stars, right? So to use football as an example, you know, Alan Shearer guaranteed that he was never going to win a major trophy at Newcastle with his team when he moved over. Could have gone to Man United, could have gone to Liverpool. We all fucking suck Alan Shearer off, even though he managed us and got us fucking relegated. We just all forget that. We just all forget that was the thing that happened because it's fucking Shearer. To give you the ultimate example, I would say, there's probably an argument for Tom, but Socrates from Brazil. What a fucking player he was. Never want to make, but you know who the fuck he is. He was primed to win the fucking World Cup, got beat by Italy, never won a Copa America. Socrates was the fucking shit. So I think what happens is people will remember like legendary players that like don't win tournaments, don't win major trophies, but nobody remembers like the captain that like captained the teams that came close and never quite did it. They kind of fade into obscurity. So I think I think for me, I Karrigan definitely I would always come down.
Listen,
and of course, yeah,
go on, you're going to finish.
No, I was just gonna say, and of course there is the whole thing that like, you know, Karrigan's getting on in years, so I as a fellow boomer, I probably lean more towards
I would agree with the way you set that up, though, that if like both of them didn't win, the difference is Simple would be thought of way more fondly, whereas Karrigan's like respect would just diminish year on year. Because for an obvious example would be this, right? I'll give you an example now that I'm going to give just as like a thought exercise to show the point, because everyone in Twitch chat's going to disagree and say I'm wrong, and in doing so, prove my point. Right? Who do you think was more influential and impactful on CSGO history in terms of being great at their role? Existence or Scream? Now, every moron's going to say Scream. They're absolutely wrong if they put that. Like, Existence was, for the first 2 or 3 years, were the absolute best in-game leaders, beat the Prime Fnatic with tons and tons of times, took a load of great players and made them even great. Like, Scream was just a very good player at one point in time, one of the best, but didn't win. But the difference is, in the annals of history, actually Scream probably will be remembered more than Existence because he was just a sick highlight player and, yeah, he was a star. So I think you've set it up pretty well.
I hope that's not true. I'd like to see, again, this is why, if you're throwing money around for fucking content creators, give some money to me and Duncan, and we'll go out and we will script you the ultimate esports documentaries, and you have to do one on Existence. And I think together we could do a great one. Like, because I was there live when and I think I've got like footage and stuff of him from back in the day on some laptops in my locker. Because he's he was a pioneering in-game leader. We'd never seen nothing like that, and turning up with a fucking iPad and fucking telling people what to do. Micromanaging people to that level. The playbook IGLs we think of now, they all took their cues from Existence, 100%. So yeah, I agree with you. I think but there you go. See, so imagine the same thing, like Simple or Existence winning a major. You pick Existence, right?
Nah, I'd still probably say Simple for that. Because like I say,
you waving though.
Existence had his chances. Here's the thing. People don't know this about me. One thing I don't actually do is I don't just sit around thinking like, the fucking FaZe should have won that fight. I accept the results. Now, I don't have to like them. I actually think FaZe was the better team and it would have been cooler for FaZe's history if they'd have won. But it did happen. I can't hate on it.
Yeah.
But Existence had plenty of chances at Major, but he just blew them all. So, tough shit. Sorry.
Question from MissAlcoholic. Hey guys, while having a discussion on Rich's Discord with Verona, we would like to ask what rules are typically in place to stop teams from making roster changes mid-event. For instance, are there specific approvals that they must receive before the change? Would there even be rules about announcing roster changes mid-tournaments? You'll find most tournaments, especially leagues online that take over a long period of time, they just say you sign up at the start and you have a roster and it's fixed. And you better include a 6th or, in some cases a 7th in that initial announcement because you will not be able to add them later. It's like having a transfer window in football. It's basically, there will be a time you can make a roster change, but for the next 3 months, you can't, or you're going to forfeit your position in the league. And this is one of the things that's plagued a lot of online leagues down the years, because online CS isn't as alluring and it goes over a long period of time. In particular in NA, teams will have an argument because they lost one game, blow up at each other, one guy will leave the team, and then the whole roster's fucked. You can't meet the rest of your commitments, so you end up having to forfeit the whole thing. And ESEA was plagued by this for many, many years as a phenomenon. So it requires a bit of professionalism and a bit of dedication. But I think, in principle, by the way, I think it's the right thing to do. Yes. I think tournaments become meaningless if rosters are just shape-shifting entities that are completely different every week.
Or how about remember in past years where famously, because Na'Vi wasn't in ECS, Simple literally was just standing in for motherfuckers and dropping 50. Like plus 50s in series.
I forgot about that. Yeah,
the most
that was ridiculous.
Super sub of all time.
Yeah, guys, we've got to stand in for this game. You might have heard of him. He's called something like, fucking get me out of this. Like, you bringing Shaq to a fucking pickup game. We're like,
exactly.
Kids. It's ridiculous, isn't it? So yeah, you do end up with the absurd situations like that, which you'd avoid. Now, for LANs, the one thing I will say is I think at LAN tournaments, in the unlikely event of somebody, say, getting sick, or having a drop out, or having a family emergency and having to travel home, or the travel gets delayed, whatever it is, the really crazy emergency situations, I think there should be leeway in being able to bring somebody in as an emergency contingency plan. Again, I'll use a football example. During a transfer window, when you're outside of the transfer window, you can't buy players. You can't bring players in. But if you have no goalkeepers and your goalkeepers all get injured, you're allowed to go and get an emergency loan for a goalkeeper from another team
For
because
obvious
they
reasons.
recognize that position is so important.
Yes.
Yeah, you can't just play like until the transfer window opens with a fucking striker in net.
Just losing 15-0 every game.
Yeah. Mate, I still remember a game from the fucking 90s where Vinnie Jones ended up in goal. That was because of red cards, though. That was Wimbledon. But Vinnie Jones played in fucking goal in a Premier League game. But anyway, so, you know, they acknowledge that the specialist nature of the position and the requirement to meet commitments and competitive integrity and everything else, you're allowed to stand in an emergency setting. And I think more LAN tournaments, if they don't already do that, this idea of like, oh, you can use the coach as long as he's signed up, that's one thing. But let's say you don't have a coach. Let's say you're a small org and you finally got to a big tournament and then like some personal tragedy befalls one of your players or they're too sick to play. You should be able to just go out and register someone to make sure you can play your games. There'll probably be somebody at the tournament that isn't playing with the team who can play a little bit, or maybe somebody willing to fly out last minute if you can reschedule. I think there should be more leeway at LAN than there should be at leagues. So, right, hope that answers the question. Siggoh asks, do you think Valve will try to bring content or changes to CS since the summer is coming up and Valorant looks to be a much better competitor than Overwatch was ever going to be? And I'll ask that next question second. I noticed Jacob Wolf wrote a column recently sort of echoing my sentiments that I'd said a few weeks prior, that basically with everything that's going on in the world right now, with all the numbers we're breaking on Counter-Strike, with a rival game coming out, with people in quarantine, with everything pivoting to online, now is the time to hit, and obviously with us now being the flagship game for Valve, because the Dota numbers are lagging so far behind, now is the time to just commit to content. Now, initially, it looks like maybe, sort of, kind of, we're sort of getting that. They are doing, the updates feel a bit more regular. We just come out of an operation. They put some stuff out as a crossover between CSGO and Half-Life Alyx, which they certainly didn't have to do. It was underwhelming. I saw James Bardolph's tweets going, what, I paid for early fucking access, £900 to get a fucking sticker in CSGO. Yep, turns out you did, mate. But,
by the way, Bardolph, you own 17,000 fucking keyboards. I don't think that wasting money was your problem. Just going to say that, you know. What the fuck? Oh, now 900 for this. Look at this new keyboard. It's in Sanskrit.
Yeah, look at this new keyboard. It's like the other keyboard, but it's cream. Yeah, brilliant. But anyway, so you know, I think now is the time. Now, whether or not the Valorant will light a fire under their ass to do it, I couldn't speak to Valve's mind in that regards, but I'll certainly say that clearly the market for Valorant is based on luring away Counter-Strike players. That should concern you if you care about your business and you care about your bottom line. I don't think it'll succeed long term, but I do think short term there'll be a drop in the numbers. And hey, if Valorant's right and it's a legit game and they've cracked having class-based shooting and fucking all the gunplay and high-level tactics of Counter-Strike, they've already won, by the way, if they do those things. But that's been a conundrum no one's been able to figure out. And if Riot are going to do it on their second game, who knows? So I think, honestly, Counter-Strike will... I think we'll get another. I don't think we're waiting 2 years for another operation. Put it that way. I think we're going to get something around the corner quicker as soon as they can get back into the office to work on something, provided they haven't already got something in the pipeline. Not to mention the Source 2 engine. I saw a lot of clout-seeking cunts out there tweeting, "So engine coming in a month. Sources tell me." It's like, right. First of all, even if you had a Valve insider, which I know you cunts don't. Even if you had a Valve insider that told you it was coming in a month, do you know anything about that? Can be true that day that they tell you, and then instantly that person's moved to another project working on something else because Gabe says we've got to get this out, or actually it turns out that guy never really liked Counter-Strike the entire time and he can just wander into another office and work on another project. Famously, that's how Valve works. So I reached out to some people who were like in a close proximity, and they basically said, like, listen, we're probably looking at Source at the end of the year. I don't think it gets rolled out before the major and new engine. I think that would be a disaster because all the bugs and glitches that are going to come with us fully moving over to another engine could be hugely problematic. I think we've got to, like, muddle through the next major, at least with the spaghetti code that we've got and the mishmash. But I think that's going to be the next big content drive. So you're probably waiting till the end of the year, but I think we go into 2021 in a good spot. And keep in mind, Riot's gonna, it's gonna take them a while to get Valorant up to code. I don't know if you have any thoughts on whether
No, I think you
Valve
covered it
should be
all.
doing obviously yes. All right, good. The follow-up question was, will Riot put the final nail in the coffin for Overwatch with Valorant?
I have something to say for this. Here's what I'll say for this. It won't go into big ranks. We actually addressed this a little bit last episode. What I'll say is this. The nail in the coffin is it's the dog that didn't bark, if you know your Sherlock Holmes. Why would Riot Games not directly go head-to-head with Blizzard, guys? Why wouldn't they say, our game, which, by the way, looks like fucking Overwatch and TF2 had a baby, why wouldn't they just say it's the Overwatch killer? Because fucking Overwatch sucks. So why would you want to be the Overwatch killer? That's like saying our movie's going to be even better than that female Ghostbusters. What, the one that tanked? Like, no one liked that. Like, you wouldn't build that. So the joke is, the very fact that they're pivoting their whole thing to be about it's the Counter-Strike killer is because even they are suggesting Overwatch is irrelevant. And as a result, that in itself suggests that, like, if even Riots doesn't feel like giving the coup de grace to kill you, you're probably already dead, mate. It just hasn't happened yet.
No, exactly right, on point. And I think it's just like the reality is they know, right? Riot are lots of things, right? And they always have their finger on a pulse on what's going on in other gaming communities and everything. There is intelligence gathering is a big part of being a rioter. So they know Overwatch pros aren't happy, because why the fuck would you be? They're all burnt out from too much practice for too little money. You're playing in a league. You're not building your big personal brands. Meanwhile, you've got to watch every fucking big name player that got out the game early and has built up their stream, the XQCs and Seagulls of this world, absolutely fucking minted, raking it in. The number one, kings of the hill when it comes to fucking just playing Overwatch, which, by the way, they'll still feel the benefit of that when Overwatch 2 comes out and everything else. But Overwatch 2 is a shot in the arm. It's a cash injection for Activision and Blizzard. It's not designed to save your scene. It's a YouTube deal that they did was a big cash injection. I'm pretty sure that, like, for what there's going to be love 41,000 viewers because we've got a bigger strategic relationship. This has been an unprecedented disaster. And Twitch didn't want to re-up. It wasn't that YouTube outbid them. It was that actually YouTube paid on Twitch, and Twitch would never come because they got the fucking data. They know. So you got a game that's actually not being played by people. It's down to like 4th or 5th in Korean PC banks now. It's FIFA's above it, and that's a huge market for it. You got a league that's swirling down the pan in terms of viewership. It didn't capture hearts and minds. Sympathetic because coronavirus made them cancel all the home stands, which was meant to be the big step that they were going to be taking this year, and that was going to prove that regional esports can be a thing. Guess what? We're all back to online. It's typically as Riot did and all our CS tournaments did to run their events online and actually had to post, well.
You're lagging out quite a bit, by the way.
Yeah,
Richard.
you couldn't hear that in the last 30 seconds, basically.
Yeah, I Discord, but it was...
Hang on, I'll try changing the server again, but didn't seem to help last time.
Oh, he hasn't come.
Oh,
Yep, there it is. He was just changing regions again, I think. Yeah,
say the last 30 seconds part again.
Yeah. Right. So I was just saying it seems absurd to me that, like, the Overwatch League, they've got this reduction in viewership. You've got pros leaving in abundance. I just did a tweet before I came online about that. The entire front page of the fucking subreddit was this guy's retiring to go and play Valorant. This guy's retiring to go play Valorant. They couldn't. The homestand project, which was meant to be the big step in the right direction for the Overwatch League. I'm sympathetic. Coronavirus wrecked them, so they had to cancel all the homestand. They couldn't even pivot to playing online games in the same speed that we did in Counter-Strike and other games. They got all sorts of fucking problems over there. And I'm telling you, keep in mind that this year, and I've got this on authority from even people who were still true believers in the Overwatch League internally, this year was meant to be the year where they came out and went, right, we lost for 3, but we're winning now. They're further behind than they've ever been. So, yeah, obviously, Valorant didn't even need to come out for Overwatch to die. No. That's the sad reality of it. They are so reliant now on Overwatch 2, giving it a shot in the arm. And honestly, when you look at what that is, some like PvE single player bullshit that should have been in the original game if they weren't a bunch of money grubbing bastards over at Activision Blizzard. It's not the one, guys. It's done and done. If you like Overwatch, by all means, play it. but understand that it absolutely failed as an esport, and it's absolutely failed as a top tier game. That's just the reality. I don't make the rules. It just is what it is.
It's going to go down, in my opinion, as the ultimate example of an artificial propped up esport. And that's why I say it will go down in history as one of the worst investments that those teams ever made. Because the joke that they were ever going to see that money back, I think anyone who still even vaguely believes that was a plausible premise is delusional.
So last two questions. ReykjavikOnSteam, for all the young and aspiring professional Valorant players down in Silver, do you have any tips on how best to survive in a Riot world? Understand there is an element to this Valorant closed beta that I do not like, and will be certainly mentioning when I do my review and write-up of the game, and that is Riot Games' insistence that you had to link a Twitch account to gain access.
Read between the lines on that one, guys.
Yeah. That's problematic for a variety of reasons. I know enough about the League of Legends days to know that there were many unfair bans that were meted out, especially very early on, to players who didn't deserve it. You know, I Will Dominate's the famous example. Criticized the skin design at an after party. The person who designed it got wind of it. They got all butthurt about it. He did a year ban from competitive CS because of that.
League of Legends, but yeah.
League of Legends, sorry. Fuck, it is a CS podcast, isn't it? I'm fully Biden today. I'm absolutely knackered. I've been up all night. But anyway, yeah, from competitive League of Legends, he did a year ban for that, for criticizing the skin design. So
I like the way, by the way, just as an aside, because obviously we can timestamp this anyway. I like the way Biden, this many times, has changed those stories. Now I'm just waiting for him to go. I was involved with the civil rights movement. I was involved with the civil rights movement. My name was Martin Luther King Jr. back then. Like,
yeah, mate,
it's a level where that's how much
you don't even need to timestamp it. Like, you don't even need to timestamp it. Me and the governor from Virginia were out there standing up proud for civil rights. It's fucking unbelievable, isn't it? Like, you know. But anyway, so how do you survive in a Riot world? Well, first of all, assuming they're still operating how they've always operated, and they haven't changed. The reality is, you probably already fucked up. Ever tweeted anything about Riot? Ever mocked League of Legends? Ever said anything banned on a forum that they can find out and link through linked accounts? If you ever want to be pro, they do player checks over in League of Legends, and the player checks aren't just what you've. And keep in mind, this is a company as well, into employees chat logs, and you must one of the rules they would have. You had to play League of Legends or you couldn't work there. And they would go into your logs if you'd ever did anything from a conduct perspective and pull employee chat logs, and you would go in for a disciplinary. Like, I noticed when you were playing a game of League of Legends the other day, like, what's that got to do with my job? Are you happy with my performance? Yes, but you did say to a player here, and so they take that shit ultra fucking seriously to a degree I've never seen a games developer ever take it. And I think
there's a reason people joke that it's a cult. It's not that far off the mark, that way.
Yeah, no, I'm not even joking when I say it. I'm 100%. Now, there's a lot of people who were responsible for creating that culture have left the company now, and it is my fervent hope and prayer that we are not seeing a cycle similar to League of Legends, where they come bearing gifts and it's all open arms, and they get everyone in through the door to grow their game, and then they turn around and start smashing everybody that's ever said anything bad about them, ever disagreed with them, and they basically close off people getting in the scene, like, for example, we've seen AZK and Swag announced over at T1. Great news for them. I really hope it works out for them. But just so people know, in Overwatch, it was always intimated. There was actually that was saying these guys could never be on TV because they were match fixers in Counter-Strikes, and we simply will not tolerate that. So there were no second chances, even going to another game, because they were that obsessed with the image of their terrible, PG-13, not even PG-13, esport they were building. So how you survive in a Riot world? You kiss Riot. You don't want some content. And you can criticize the game but maybe never directly to staff members. Would be to keep interaction Riot and also don't participate in the Riot/Reddit controlled subreddit that they've got. Anything that you say there is being collected, is being sent to Riot staff members. That is just a fact of how it operates. They can say it isn't. I know firsthand there was a Riot employee who now, funnily enough, works in security, literally gathering information on me from stuff the moderators were taking from my Reddit accounts.
Can you even imagine our dossiers? I bet we've got like a whole, normally you open up the filing cabinet and you go through, we've just got a whole cabinet. Like we've got the whole drawer, like Thorin tweets, Richard Lewis, because we've just said so much shit over the years. By the way, I would echo a lot of what you said there. And I would also add in, literally, like I wouldn't do it. So I'm giving you hypothetical advice. But if I was a player who wanted to try and have a career in a game like Valorant, literally right this second, delete all of your social media, start it again and never put a foot wrong. Yep. I think that's almost impossible to follow through on, but that's the only literally realistic advice I can give you.
Yeah. Final question. Is Valorant, this is also from ReykjavikOnSteam, is Valorant a better Overwatch or a worse CS? I've not played the game, and the one thing I loathe is in any sort of game cycle, I loathe the way that we now have to go through this period of time where everyone tells you what it's like before they've even had access, before they've even touched. I'm so sick and tired of people telling me, oh, it's just like Counter-Strike. And then, they're basing that on an online video of the recoil patterns being the same. It doesn't mean it's going to handle the same. There's so many components to how a game feels. That's like me saying, oh, well, CSGO was the same as Source. It wasn't, was it? So, it's even more absurd that a game on a different engine created by a different company is going to handle even vaguely different. People were saying, oh, if you're good at Counter-Strike, you'll be immediately good at Valorant. So I don't know. I'm not going to say anything in that regard because I think it's idiotic. I just think that the game has elements of both games. We all know Overwatch is in trouble. We all know Counter-Strike is flourishing. But let people pick their poison, man. I've never been against games. Play what you want to play at the end of the day.
Yeah, what I would just say is this. If it is either basically the new CS or the new Overwatch, it will fail in my opinion. The best approach and the only approach to becoming the number one esports game, if you look at the history, is to be a new game, to be a different type of game. So actually, that's actually the best chance it has, like you said before. If it can marry some of those elements, but in a unique way, it can be its own thing and it could be incredibly successful. So I personally would hope it's not trying to either be CS, which I think would fail, or Overwatch, which had its own core problems that we all know. So I would just say it's best if it's neither.
Yeah.
Just be a different game.
Right then. Let's wrap it up. We got a little nice thing to do at the end before we get there. We shout out to .com. Obviously gushed about them at the start of the show. Great sponsor. I've got .com/RLS if you want to place any bets on any esports events. They have a whole raft over there. It's not just Counter-Strike. It's a great place to be, a great hub for content. And obviously shout out to the patrons that brought the show back from the dead over on our Patreon, which is linked to as well on the overlay. So if you want to throw a coin to the Witcher, please go over there. $100 patrons, Jerky's Minion, Alice the Alchemist, Madams, and ReykjavikOnSteam, and our $50 patrons, Benakagi Assassin, Buttpounder420, Carve, Colin Penny, Cathal, Flax. Is that Cathal Flacksmith now? Has he changed his name, or is that two separate ones? Well,
no. There should be a comma in between.
Yeah, I thought so. Cathal, Flacksmith, Jdubs, Jyse, Lipscomb Davis, Madsen, Marcus Kiumpar, mikeFeedMe, MissAlcoholic, Nikolai Lundgreen, Sard Sawar, SunMaidRaisins, TC Owens, Tobias Bunsconi, and Watchdoge. And what we'll do is we'll leave you with that footage from that Dosia video, his announcement to Mustang. Watch him eat a sandwich, watch him get the girl. Until the next episode from Quarantine, take care of yourselves. We'll see you on By the Numbers. Peace.
А тебе правда звали Гамбит?
Чё ты пиздишь?